That's another thing that is like gets me fired up is this, and I'm going to call it what it is, absolute bull that federal workers don't do anything, that we sit at home all day, we don't do anything at all. You know, does that happen? Of course, I'm sure it happens, but it happens in the private industry just as well.
Of course,
I could walk 2 stores down, 2 buildings down, and I'm sure they could point out somebody who doesn't do shit all day. But the blanket, and I'm going to say it, this president to blanket all federal workers as lazy, we don't do anything. That is absolute. What's that?
Malingerers.
Exactly. Absolute and utter bullshit. And it's an insult to me and to the people who do their job every day supporting the warfighter, that everybody claims to love, the military and what we do directly supports and impacts them. And if we didn't do it, if we all walked off our job or we all got fired, the warfighter would be the one that's screwed. So that's an insult, and I will not take that. I will say it to his face and anyone else's, and I don't care.
Battle Line Podcast, very special episode here at the Team House. We have Jack Murphy, we have Jason Wines.
Battle Line Podcast.
Did I say the Team House? I said we're at the Team House.
Battle Line Podcast.
Well, you can't even say podcast right now.
So Jack be napping in the corner.
Jack's imbibing a little bit of the too much stuff. No, is he? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway,
I'm here.
We're at the Team House. It is the Battle Line Podcast. And sometimes we say that we don't get into politics on here. We definitely do get into some politics. We also get into some testosterone. We get into a lot of interesting things.
I think I said boner 3 times already.
Boner was said several times. So with that, guys, before we get into everything, Bubs Naturals is one of the great sponsors of this podcast, the best single source collagen protein out there from grass-fed cows. And all their supplements are great, whether it's Hydrate or Dye, the MCT oil powder. I love all the stuff. Apple cider vinegar.
You've got the apple cider vinegar gummies, and again, the collagen, it has helped a ton, man, especially with me getting old and new knees and new hips. But guys, I'm back on an elliptical machine. I'm out there running in a pool. And to say that it wasn't just an orthopedic surgeon that helped me do it, definitely is those supplements. And of course, helping Bub and the Glendora Memorial Foundation is just icing on the cake.
Absolutely. So check them out, guys. BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code BattleLine and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. That's BubsNaturals.com, promo code BattleLine for 20% off your first purchase. With that, let's get right over to Jason Wyans and Jack Murphy.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The switch is on, Battle Line Podcast. We are at the Team House studio, and it's actually a pretty packed house because originally it was just Jason Wyans coming in studio.
And he packs the house anyway because you see the size of his freaking guns? Man, dude's humongous, man.
This is true. He is a power lifter. And Jack Murphy was around, so we figured hop on. So yeah, of course, Jason Lyons, former CIA intelligence officer and Marine, host of the Eyes On podcast with Andy Milburn, which is basically a part of the Team House family, you could say. Jack Murphy, of course, Green Beret, Army Ranger, host of the Team House. And you know what's pretty crazy? You were talking about recent celebrity deaths, which I don't know what we're going to get into this show, but Did you guys see the Gene Hackman thing this morning? Because I heard about Gene Hackman dying, but then the crazy thing was his wife is dead and his dog is dead, and they haven't really explained it. Because when I heard a 95-year-old man being dead, I said, okay, there's nothing out of the ordinary about that. But his wife, who's only 63, and his dog, as of today when we're recording, we really don't know what the deal is.
I saw just before we got here, a lot of people were speculating that it was carbon monoxide. But then I read a report that said they're marking it as suspicious because the fire department went in and there was no carbon monoxide detected whatsoever. So I don't know.
But who has it in for Gene Hackman?
Yeah.
He's not he's 95-year-old guy. Maybe he was a double. Should we go down the rabbit hole? Should we do conspiracy theories? Double agent his wife is Asian, right? So was he? No, I don't know, guys. I'm just trying to spitball, but it's like it couldn't be anything shady out of the ordinary,
crazy.
Could it?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think there was 2 dogs, and one of them was left alive or didn't die. So
he said left alive, so it was a hit. Just right there, we just know it was a hit.
Confirmed.
Jason just called it. We called it right here on my podcast.
I'm gonna get popped in the street as soon as I walk out.
Oh,
and then Jack, you mentioned the woman from, was it? I know Harriet the Spy.
Yeah, Michelle Trachtenberg passed away like a day or two ago. 39 years old. Here in New York City, apparently.
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Euro Trip.
Oh,
classic.
My Michelle Trachtenberg story, if you'll permit this digression.
Do it. Yeah, do
it.
Was, 2005 in Iraq. You know, anybody who was deployed at that time understands that like there's a PX on some of these bigger bases, and you go there every day, and they always have like the same 2 or 3 DVDs, you know. And at this time, one of those DVDs was a Disney film called Ice Princess.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Michelle Trachtenberg plays a girl who takes up figure skating. And so I bought this DVD and I made one of my privates watch it with me, this guy Rodriguez. And it's a Disney film. He probably wasn't happy to begin with. But as we're watching it, he starts getting like angrier and angrier and getting like more aggressive. He gets all like red in his face and everything. And like he's moving around the room. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it turns out his mom made him take figure skating classes for years. And this dude was so bitter and angry about it. He was just like stomping around as we watched this movie.
I bet he was smooth though, clearing rooms.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
just as like silk. Yeah. Like my dad made me do gymnastics and ballet because of Lynn Swan. Man, growing up.
Oh yeah,
you like Lynn Swan. And, honestly, it paid off. I didn't stick with I think I did like one ballet. I was like, Dad, I can't stick with the gymnastics. I stayed with forever. And
the mobility and everything is super helpful.
Flexibility and figure skating. I mean, they have nice legs, so it's got to be some. I mean, the females, the males. Where are we going with this? Man? Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about anymore with YouTube and the algorithms.
Well, gymnasts have the shoulders too. I mean, that's.
Get volleyball players and you're getting me all worked out. Stop it.
That's because your wife is a volleyball player.
Yeah, dude. There's a reason. I like nice legs and gluteuses and jumping and prance. I just say prancing around, jumping around, and athletic women are hot. Let's just put it that way. I'm just right there. They're hot. But that was a skating one. I remember that show, and she was Michelle. I can't Trachtenberg, right? That's how you say her last name. Mm-hmm. She was. Every movie she was in, she was like the cute little bubbly one. And if you didn't have a crush on her, you're growing up in that time, you didn't have a crush on. I did. And the Buffy, and then the Euro Trip movie put her over the top.
Euro Trip was a great movie. I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years, but it resonates. Yeah.
That's a deployment movie right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jason, I know you're on the show to talk about you, so maybe we should get to that, or we can still talk about.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll get into everything. Actually, I wrote down a few different things we could get into. I mean, I think I don't know what I could say in terms of this, and obviously because we're not live, I could edit out anything on like the Team House. But prior to me booking this, I remember, I'll keep it vague. But you were originally like, I don't know if I can come in because of how my job is and everything. And right now we're hearing about like the restructuring of everything in government. You're the one guy who still works in government. So whatever you can say of like your take of where things are headed right now, positive or negative, because it seems like everything is being shuffled around.
Yeah. So, without, saying where I work exactly, it, it's tough. It's mostly more negative than positive. Like, I'll say blanket statement, I have no issue whatsoever with, cutting the fat, getting rid of bloat, exposing fraud, all that other stuff. But in no way, shape, or form do I agree with how this is being done. These are people's lives. Whatever anybody thinks, these are people's lives. They have children, they have families, to just tell them, you're gone if you don't answer this email is just ludicrous. There's a young girl who works in my office who she just started, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something like that, little less than a year. And always bubbly, always laughing and talking to everyone and everything. And then I think it was last week, I was told that it just finally hit her what was going on. And that whole day, she would just cry all day long because she didn't know what was going to happen to her. She's still there. She's okay for now, I guess. But we do have a few people who took the early resignation. And I know people who were let go because they're at the VA or whatever. One of which, although he hasn't been let go, my son works for the VA. So this stuff hits home for me. I don't give a shit, what your political, lean is. These are human beings. And, so I feel this stuff personally. Whatever happens to me happens. I'm about 4 years from my 30. I have about 26 years federal service. So if I got to go, I go. But I feel for people who they don't have that time. And don't necessarily have that security. And it's a scary time. It really is. So.
Is it that if you don't answer the email, you get fired though? I mean,
that's what they're saying.
If that's the well, then how hard is it to say I showed up for work, I wrote a report, I don't know, whatever your job. My job, I'm working with the National Flood Insurance Program. I'm an independent adjuster, and I manage a team of adjusters for FEMA. And I looked at a file today. I made a contract to revise. I mean, if that's not all it is, why is it? Is it a bravado thing? I'm not going to do it because I'm a federal.
No.
I would ask this question: when you worked for GRS, did you check your email every day?
If I was in charge, I had to. I mean, independent of where I was at, but luckily I was never in charge because I'm a shitbag, and they would never put me in charge. But that if I was allowed and I was part of the C2 or C1, whatever we called it at that point in time, Kandahar I was, but I didn't mind doing that because I had Rebel in the office with me. So we'd go in there and bullshit and hang out. But to say that I was running a country TL, I never was. I never was a country TL. I'll say it right now, I never would. So I can't answer if I say I would or wouldn't. But
I mean,
I do right now. I mean, ask Ian with FEMA and NFIP. I'm on my computer 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Making sure people are getting paid and fighting with FEMA and the NFIP to get people paid.
Yeah.
They want to cut $300 off a $250,000 claim because we didn't dot an I or cross it. Seriously. It's like, and I'm battling with them there. So what I'm getting at is, I think I would have. I'm doing it now. But then again, I never had that really responsibility except for when I was a C2 in Kandahar, which I would, but I didn't think that was much of a job, just going and hanging out with Rebel in the HQ and bullshitting and laughing and making fun of everybody and then answering a few emails, and I'd get out and go to the gym. And then
because my reaction, I feel like, was the same as Chris, as someone who doesn't work in government, never has, because I did see these government employees like on CNN sending over showing the email on screen like it was a traumatic thing. And to me, I was like, this looks like an end of day report for like any business where it just says like, what did you do today?
And
to me, that was just my reaction was, what's so bad about it?
So like having conversations with like friends of mine who work at VA, they have their own internal mechanisms for tracking their progress day to day. And so it's this question of like, where is this email coming from? Why is this person asking me to replicate what I've already done? And so I guess that's sort of the issue there.
And for me, so the blanket answer to your question was we were told not to answer it. That's why I didn't answer it, because we were told, like, we got the email. I think it was a Sunday night. My son actually texted me with a screenshot and said, "Dad, did you get this email?" And I saw it and I'm like, "No, it was a Saturday night." I'm like, "No, I didn't." So I took that screenshot, sent it to our boss, and she said, "I'm just hearing about it now. We're going to figure this out." And this is a Saturday. So by Monday morning, we had gotten an email from, I can't say because then it'll go to where I work, from bigger bosses than us, like DC, saying, "You will not answer this. You don't need to answer this." Other people were told, "No, you will answer it." Not within my organization, but we were told not to. Would I have a problem with answering if it was, number one, if it came from an email address that I actually recognize, HR.gov or whatever? No, absolutely not. But no, it's not hard for me to throw 5 things on that I did because we're doing something every day. But given the atmosphere, the question automatically comes, like, not only where is this coming from, but what are they doing with this information? Are they going to use it now? You didn't, like you said, Chris, you didn't dot an I and cross a T. You can't justify your job. So now we're going to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if it was any other normal atmosphere, quote unquote normal atmosphere, I wouldn't have a problem with doing it. And if I was told to do it by my bosses, I would have answered it easily.
By your supervisor, your superior.
Easily,
you're getting some, and that makes sense to me because I'm the same way. If I'm working with the 15 people that I have under me and somebody else outside of our little sphere that is working for the same company says, "Hey, you need to do," no, you listen to what I'm telling you, because you do get some cross mogination going on. And then you've got manipulation. Then you've got, that's why we don't have conversations outside of our right and left limits.
Absolutely.
I get that. And that's
if it had been, and this seems to be the pattern, and this is where I'm having a problem. If it had been, my son sent this to me on a Saturday night, and that's the pattern. It's like it's coming in on a Friday night or a Saturday night when nobody is around. My son happened to see it on Friday because he has another phone that, he gets his work emails. It's coming in. And if it had been, "Hey, you have a week, 2 weeks to get this into us," be different. But it's Saturday night. You have to have it in by Monday at midnight. Not necessarily hard to do, but that's for me. I know what I did all week. Now take that young girl that I was telling you about. She's got to hunt around. She's already freaking out. Has to make sure that it's perfect. Is this right? Do I send it? Then 11:59 Monday comes and she's not sure. She just hits send. The time constraints to me are just, I don't know if we're.
Do you think it was planned?
It's bullshit.
Friday?
Absolutely.
Friday,
Absolutely. It's designed to, I believe it's designed to sow fear and people are just not sure what's going to happen. Plus you have people, I was looking at social media and I saw some thread where people were like, "This is the first time I'm hearing about it because I'm on leave right now. I'm not even around." So now they had to go back to their bosses and figure out what they have to do. So
do you think there's possibly, though, the higher ups being like, "Don't answer this email"? That could just be politically motivated of, okay, we don't like the current administration, so we're not going to comply with what they're trying to do here.
Absolutely.
But
However,
Pete Hegseth saying not to answer the email.
You have some.
Yeah,
Hegseth
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he said that.
Not
So
to answer.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, luckily, working within this realm and working with FEMA right now, working with the National Flood, and we're still trying to handle these hurricanes and there's catastrophes. And if it's not coming from a direct line supervisor, then it shouldn't be coming from anyone. It doesn't. And I would tell, and I do tell, if something comes from NFIP or FEMA and it comes to an adjuster that works for me, they're actually going to hit me up first anyway. Say, "Hey, do I have to answer this? I can." And then I'm going to reach out. I'm not going to do it and tell them no because it's politically driven. I'm going to reach out and say, "Hey, you need to come through me. This is the chain. This is how it works. Is this legit?" So if I'm a supervisor, say, "Don't answer it because it's a politically motivated or because it's a dick measuring contest," then no, that's wrong.
Yeah, and none of that was said. And just to be clear, But
if it's from a superior that's saying, hey, let me check on this for
Yeah.
you to make sure, and I will tell you if you need to or not.
exactly.
I'm good with that.
Mhm.
And if it's not going that way, then yeah, it is fucking wrong. They're
Yeah.
doing it wrong. Good initiative, bad fucking judgment.
Absolutely.
And I get that. And that's good to hear because I don't know all that. All I know is people aren't answering. I'm like, well, shit, I just an adjuster answer 8 questions
Mhm.
for me today. I
Yeah.
needed it.
Yeah.
But it's his requirement. He's supposed to do it. So just knock
Absolutely.
it out. But he's coming from me.
Mhm.
And I'm his next chain of command. I'm that guy. And it came from my chain of command saying we needed to do this. So just like the military, that's right. But if it's just saying, hey, you need to do this on a Friday or I'm going to fire you, well, who the fuck are you? Who
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah. And then
That's wrong.
the short
I-
history, along with that was the resignations, the voluntary resignations. Again, I said this to Jack earlier. If these things have been spaced out over 6 months, a year, whatever it is, and say, hey, this is what's coming. At phase 1, voluntary resignations. Phase 2, this, that. But what we have is, again, we have a Friday night voluntary resignation. It comes from an email address that nobody knows. HR,
Yeah,
everybody's like, who the
yeah.
fuck is this? And then it's like, you have a week to decide potentially the rest of your life.
You're
And so when you have that, and then it was, you hit reply, resignation in the body, send it off. Initially we were told, you've now resigned. You can log off, go home. From now until September 30th, you get paid. And then September 30th, your resignation is effective. You're done. So some people actually did that. They took it. I forget what the number is. They took it. They went home. Well, then a week later, it was, wait a minute, come back. You have to wait until it's approved. Now you've got to reach all these people who resigned and went home. They have to come back in the office, which we have a couple, 3, I think, who took it from our building, took it. They have to now sit in the office every day until it's approved. We just found out that I think when was the 28th? Is that today, tomorrow?
that today. Tomorrow's the
I
20th.
Yeah, tomorrow's the 20th. So as of tomorrow, it's effective. But these people had already gone home. They'd already logged off. They'd already turned in their equipment. And, so all of that chaos, and now it's answer these 5 questions or you're fired. It's like, what do I take seriously? Do I even listen to this? Because it's from the same email.
Yeah.
So it was just, yeah.
Well, that's where leadership steps up. It's got they got to step in and say, man, and be willing to take the heat round. Believe me, I get it, man. I've taken a few already. Stepped by FEMA for defending that's what you're there for defending my guys.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, though, because like the way you started this, where you said you're all for trimming the fat, getting rid of certain jobs, I think it's just going to be a tough thing to do that. And there's probably just going to be obstacles in the beginning. I mean, we all heard about during the Biden administration, the like insane amount of IRS agents that they brought over that are really unnecessary, and that they're going to track everyone's bank account. If there's more than, what was it, like $600 or $6,000 in a bank account, they're going to be able to have access to your bank account. I, at one point, went to a hiring event for federal air marshals because they had these giant hiring events for federal air marshals. And then I saw, I think it was the head of the Federal Air Marshal Union or something. Her name is Sonia something. I spoke about it on the show with Sarah Adams. And like, she came out and said they're not even like tracking terrorists anymore. They're just kind of on flights escorting illegal immigrants from state to state. And I go, all right, there's a ton of fucking government jobs that do not need to be there that we're all paying for.
Yeah.
So like, as someone who works in government, and for me, someone who's never worked in government, just talking about you, like, how do you go about that? I don't think there's like an easy way to do this. So there probably are going to be obstacles in the beginning until they get it right.
And I agree that, of course, anything of this magnitude, whether it's, federal, whether it's military, civilian, whatever it is, there's always going to be hiccups, private sector, all that stuff. But I think the problem is that it, again, was just slash and burn right from the beginning. And again, these are people's lives. You can cut positions and still place people other places. It's the whole, do this or you're gone thing is what bothers me. And again, I'm not speaking for the government.
Did it actually say that though? Because I saw like the emails on CNN where it just said, answer these questions. I didn't see anything that says, or you're gone.
No, it said on the email, it said, you tell us 5 things that you did this past week. And then the last thing it says was, you have until Monday midnight to answer this question. Failure to answer this email will be taken as a resignation.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
So, which is
President Musk also.
yeah, which is
That.
which is crazy to tell someone we're taking this as your resignation. Well, basically you're being fired. It's not a resignation. You're being fired. So yeah, that's where I have a huge problem with it. I mean, I have my other issues with all of this, but yeah, it's just, for me, it's the human element. Maybe it's naive. I get it. Like, what about cutting programs vice people? To start with that, cut useless, not necessarily useless, but programs that are outdated or are not making the impact that they were set out to have. Cut those programs first and then reallocate those people somewhere else. But don't.
But what if there aren't really use for the people? Because I personally, I am someone who like to shrink government. I mean, anytime that a division in the private sector gets eliminated, like those people lose their jobs and have to find something else. I just learned today that I think it was Rachel Maddow's entire staff got fired, right? Those are people. They're going to have to find something else to do. I kind of think government should be handled the same way. If there's like a sector where we don't need these thousands of people, you're going to have to find something else to do. That's my take. But
I agree, man. But I mean, like, for instance, yesterday, like, they fired something like 2,000 people from Veterans Affairs. It includes like therapists. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just like non-essential personnel. They're like people who actually did things.
And that's, I agree with Jack on that, because you should be cutting from the top down, man, not from the soldiers on up.
Yeah.
I can use FEMA as an example because I've been with FEMA and the NFIP for 20 some years. I was an adjuster. I mean, that was no joke, and that's what I did on my off time. So it kept me sane. And there's 4 freaking directors for FEMA that do the exact same freaking thing. They're all getting paid millions of dollars. It's the same thing. There's an Office of Resiliency. What the fuck is that? A deputy that gets paid $500,000. Now, do you need to go and cut and fire all the examiners and the judge? No, those are the people on the front line that are dealing with everyone. It's up top. That's so. If you're going to start cutting, you start cutting where you're supposed to up top. When there's 4 positions for a guy that does the same job, and they're all sys level, and they're all making millions of dollars, and you don't need 4 of them. You need 1.
It's the McKinsey consultants that you can cut.
Is that what's McKinsey? Could tell me what that is.
McKinsey is like the biggest consulting firm in the country. And I mean, they typically come in and McKinsey is New York City paid them like $6 million to do a study to tell us that we need trash cans.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
There's a whole book out there about them at this point. But I mean, it's just, typical, what you were alluding to there, I think, Chris.
There was so much clowning on X about that with your favorite mayor, Eric Adams, with the trash can, showing like this new innovative thing that we're going to be using.
Oh my God. And I think too, another mistake of the way it's being done is you're cutting out the future of the federal government. Like this girl, I'm going to keep coming back to her. She was like on fire for this job. Me, I'm like the cynical old man who's like, yeah, okay. But she was like on fire. She came to work happy. She loved the job. And it's like, now you're ripping part of the future of these agencies.
You did, yeah. The morale.
Probably mentioned the probationary employees.
What's that?
The probationary
Yeah, that's
employees.
what she is. She's probationary.
And people think, or some people think, that when you say probationary, it means they're in trouble for something.
Yeah, no. Like these people are I don't think she's even. No, she's gotten at least a mid-year review. But most of these people are getting either they don't have an evaluation at all, a review, or they're getting above average marks on their reviews. But they're being told, and that's another thing. Their termination email is saying for performance. That's a flat out lie. I don't care who agrees with me, who doesn't. You flat out lied and said that this person is not performing up to par, and that's why they're being terminated, and that's bullshit. Because
I'm sorry, their immediate supervisor said that during
No,
the eval.
no.
Or that came from some outside.
came from
that came from a McKinsey. source. I guess I must
Yep. Yeah. So think about now, take this young girl. She now has to go to another, place to try to find a job. Are you going to is whoever sent that email going to give her a letter saying, no, it was, that was an error, admin error.
She's
like
hosed.
No, she's screwed. And that's bullshit. And I just can't get on board with it. I thought about all this before we came on air, and I was like, I don't want to, overblow it or talk out of turn. But this is how.
And that's the thing. I actually do.
Real.
Well, I was going to say I really do know Jason as a guy who's extremely level-headed, and also I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm like moderate politically," but then you talk to them and they're, "Look, I'm further to the right. I know that." When I talk to you, I actually never really know where you're coming from politically. So it's very rare that I hear you get heated up about something like this.
Yeah.
So I know that when you are heated about something, it's coming from a very genuine place.
Yeah, yeah, and I would be. I know people will probably say it's bullshit, but I would be fired up about this even if I was not in the federal government, because I am a people person. I feel, what's that term, empath, whatever the hell.
Yeah,
empathy. Yeah,
yeah. Let's throw some crystals on the floor. I don't know, but I always look at things from the human point of view, and I know what it feels like. Not necessarily be fired from a job, but I know what it feels like to have to leave somewhere. I did not leave. People who know me know I did not leave CIA under good circumstances. I did not. I had a bitter taste in my mouth.
Hey, look, I did too.
Yeah. And I know what failure feels like. I know how all that stuff feels. So I keep thinking back to that girl, and I keep starting to say her name, but I'm not going to that young girl. Like, every day that she comes in, she has to fire up her laptop and like grit her teeth and not know what the hell is going to be there when she gets there. And I just think it's bullshit. Yes, it could happen. If it's going to happen, let it happen over a certain period of time, not over a week. A week is bullshit. This is just, I'm sorry.
Are any of the uppers, the directors, the deputy directors, are they losing their jobs, or they're the ones that are taking the buyouts because they're going to get a great retirement anyway? Or any of that's where it needs to be.
Yeah,
again, that's where the trimming needs to come from, not down here.
I don't think so. Not that I know of. At least none of our immediate bosses are either taking the buyouts or are being canned. I don't think so. Again, tiptoeing around it where I work. If you work in a quote unquote national security related position, I think it's also law enforcement, stuff like that. You're pretty much safe. But if you work in a quote unquote support role for national security, you're fair game. You're fair game. But I haven't heard of any higher ups that I know of who have either taken it or are on the chopping block.
And I never thought about that until we just talked about it now. And you're right. I haven't seen anything in the media about, and with FEMA, none of them. The one that was that was responsible for the email with the Trump signs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that had nothing that just had to do with just ethics, man. I mean,
remember she said that was coming from higher up. I don't know if there was really truth to that.
It was coming from some higher, but again, that's one of the 8 million deputy directors and directors that FEMA has. I mean, there's so many of them, and even on the private side that works with the flood insurance, it is corporate. It's top heavy. There's too many damn chiefs to do, and that are getting paid 6-7-figure salaries, and there needs to be one. And I just know from my experience just this last year, since I got back into it and being hot and heavy in it really a lot because of the storms, the 2 hurricanes especially, like actually seeing it and seeing how bad it still is. FEMA is as corrupt as hell. I mean, we talk about the other organizations. That's ones that goes under the radar, and they're huge. They're monstrous, and they waste buttloads of money. And they screw the insurance. They screw people over if you have flood insurance to try to save the government money, when all they really need to do is just start firing up at top and eliminating a lot of those positions that are 6- and 7-figure positions. And I don't give a shit if anybody at FEMA ever uses them. I I don't give two shits. Because it's extremely corrupt organization, but it always flies under the radar because it's FEMA. It's not border security. It's not intelligence. And they waste more money than anybody else. And I've seen it this storm already. And I've seen what Jason's talking about too, where it comes to the little guys that are actually face to face with the people, not the people sitting in the office. They're the ones that are getting axed. And I'm not in agreement with that unless you just aren't doing your job. But then I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to axe you because you're direct line with me. I'm going to say, hey, you're a shit show, dude. Sorry, you're gone.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm experiencing that with that person.
And going along with what Chris just said, that's another thing that is like gets me fired up is this, and I'm going to call it what it is, absolute bullshit that federal workers don't do anything, that we sit at home all day. We don't do anything at all. You know, does that happen? Of course, I'm sure it happens, but it happens in the private industry just as well.
Of course,
I could walk 2 stores down, 2 buildings down, and I'm sure they could point out somebody who doesn't do shit all day. But the blanket, and I'm going to say it, this president to blanket all federal workers as, lazy, we don't do anything. That is absolute. What's that?
Malingerers.
Exactly. Absolute and utter bullshit. And it's an insult to me and to the people who do their job every day supporting the war fighter, that everybody claims to love, the military and what we do directly supports and impacts them. And if we didn't do it, if we all walked off our job or we all got fired, the war fighter would be the one that's screwed. So that's an insult, and I will not take that. I will say it to his face and anyone else's, and I don't care.
Yeah, I know you would. I was going to say in terms of like higher ups, intelligence, and all that. I did want to get your take on this because I mean it's just a hot topic right now and an interesting pick. FBI Director Kash Patel.
Obviously, I do not personally know him. I've only know what I've heard. I did get a chance to watch his confirmation hearing.
I watched that too, and I watched his interview with Sean Ryan, which I actually really liked.
I haven't had a chance to watch that. I'll definitely check it out. I can say that coming into it, before I watched the confirmation hearing, I didn't hear good things about him. But just like I think I used the analogy earlier with you, Jack, I'm the kind of person where if a movie interests me or a book interests me or something like that, I don't give a shit what someone says. If someone says, don't go watch it, it's a bad movie, I'm still going to go watch it if I'm interested. Same thing with Kash Patel. I don't know the man. So you can tell me that you don't like him because of your experience with him. I might have a different experience. Yeah. Having said that, what I don't like is whether he has an agenda or not, he is giving that impression. And to have someone who is going to head the largest law enforcement force in this country say the things that he supposedly said, and this is coming from his own social media posts and stuff, it just doesn't look good. But that's left or right. That's anyway. These people who are going to be or have aspirations for these higher offices, to me, they're idiots because they get on social media, they start running off at the mouth, and then when they're asked about it, oh, well, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't comment on it.
That's also a sort of I will say a Trump thing is that he does like to pick people who are controversial, who are on TV a lot. I mean, Pete Hegseth. Now we just heard Dan Bongino, deputy director. Like, he's not the guy who's going to pick someone who's neutral, who hasn't made crazy statements on social media.
I'm under a rock, dude. I'm under a rock. What?
Yeah, Dan Bongino has been picked as deputy director as of like a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
By the way, you and I interviewed before he was like the Dan Bongino.
Years ago.
But it does seem like a typical Trump pick. Trump likes people who are like regularly on Fox News. That's what he's into.
The people he sees on television.
Yeah. For like everyone is a TV star, which is kind of weird because like even, and like when I had Sarah Adams on, which Chris wasn't on that show, and I think it's fair to say Sarah supports most of what Trump is doing right now. But when I did ask her about Kash Patel, and I asked her about the pick, like I think in general she likes the pick, but she did say generally like the best pick is not going to be the person you see in the media talking every day. Like it's going to be someone who's just goes under the radar, does their job, and those haven't been necessarily the picks that we're seeing because everyone they pick, it's like, I know that guy, I see him on Fox News all the time. And I think Trump being a reality star, that is sort of like what he what he likes.
Yeah.
So
And I'm okay with that. I mean, if that's his style, that's who he picks. That's who he picks. My problem, and again, this went to the Biden administration, Obama, Bush, all of them is, and this is why I could never be in politics because I wouldn't get very far. If something is brought before you, hey, did you say this? Own it. Yeah, hell yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. And I meant it. And then let the chips fall where they lie.
Yeah.
Like I have things that I'm not proud of in my past, but and I always say this to people, and they always laugh, is if I was ever going to run for an office, it wouldn't get very far because I would hold a press conference and I would have charts and pictures, and I'd be like, I cheated on this girl, I cheated on this test, I stole this, and I'd be like, what of it?
That's
What of
it. I've sat there with people asking me to run for back in Nebraska, run for office, and I can't. There's no way. I've done this, and this, and this, and they just get up and walk out.
I would look like
sorry, man.
I would look like I had I would look like I had a rap entourage. So I'd be like, these are my 3 ex-wives. Here's my baby mama. These are all my kids. Say hello, hi, and let the chip fall. But when they blatantly lie that they don't know what these people are, whoever the panel is interviewing them. Oh, I don't know about that. I know that's the canned thing to say.
and it's also Kash Patel being a lawyer. He knows what
Exactly.
probably should say and shouldn't say.
Exactly. But I would have more respect for these people if they, as people like to say, jock up and said, I did say that, and that was taken out of context. I cannot say, I call them Hollywood apologies or Hollywood excuses.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry that you feel this way or whatever it is. It's like, just man or woman up and say, I said it.
It's funny. I mentioned this on the show before, for example, like, I know Barack Obama, who Chris is not the biggest fan of, neither am I. But
No.
I will give credit in that I remember in his book, he said, I experimented with cocaine. And no one was really able to bring it up after that.
Yeah,
because
that's
after you say it kind of loses its power.
Exactly.
It's the clear and present danger. I'm a movie guy. It's the clear and present danger way of handling things. Harrison Ford, what did he tell him? Just admit it. Say you were lifelong friends with this drug runner. And
Exactly. Yep.
Just say
Take
it.
the power. Take the power
It
from it.
does.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you got 2 of us that wrote books here about us fucking up big.
Exactly.
Hey, Jack, do anybody ever really bring it up, or is it Jack said, well, he actually admitted. There's a whole book of he admitted what went on. Hey, Tano, you fucking got kicked out. You weren't a real Ranger. You didn't go. No, I was. I got kicked out. Here, I wrote about it right here. Here's exactly where I said, and it just goes away.
People can bring things up all the time, but it's literally in black and white. And I said it. So.
Exactly. Yep.
And that is the best way to handle it. And I can tell you from experience, and Jack, I'd like to get your take on it. All that shitty stuff I did, and I wrote about it. That's why I put it out there. I was like, screw it, because I know it's going to come out sometime. I know it is. After the 13 hours came out, I might as well just put it out there.
Absolutely.
And then like Jason, let the chips fall where they may.
Exactly.
Nothing really. I mean, there was one instant because of that anti-hero bullshit where a guy that served me the first time when I got thrown out of the Rangers said, hey, he's not a real Ranger. He just failed to do his due diligence and forgot that I came back in. Sorry, people called him out that I served with the second time.
Yep.
But have you found the same thing? When you came out, a lot of that crap that people were trying to attack you on ended. It stopped. Or it would be an accusation and then it'd be quickly snubbed by not even yourself, somebody else that happened to read the book or happened to have served with you that you didn't have to deal with it.
I don't know. I mean, it's always there, and there are always people who will want to attack you for their own personal reasons. But when you've come clean and be like, I'm not perfect, I've made mistakes, and it's just kind of it is what it is. And I think you're right that it does sort of diffuse it.
Yeah.
I remember when before
it gives you integrity too and ethics, and I think that's
100%.
Jason. Jason was great. Man, I have more respect for you. Tell me that you're a screw up, dude, and I'm more. Hey, FBI guy, go ahead, ran it up. You screwed up. So did we all, and you admitted it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the ones who aren't are lying.
And when it comes to someone who's running for office, maybe right at that moment, you coming clean will keep you from getting elected. But the next time around that you run, people are going to be like, he's the truth teller. He's a stand-up guy or a gal. I'm ready to, get behind this person. So
I'm ready to vote for somebody that actually tells the truth.
Exactly.
Wow, that was a fucking change in America right
exactly.
there.
But I remember prior to you putting out the book, actually, because we were working together at SOFREP, there were people who tweeted you and me, I remember, and saying, "Oh, is Jack gonna write about the friendly fire incident?" And it was like, "Yeah, you did."
It's like 2 chapters in that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I did. It's right here, you son of a bitch. Dude.
Yeah,
Come
exactly.
on. God
Yeah.
dang it. How much, I draw a picture book for you?
Yeah.
With the pop? I mean,
Yeah,
I-
coloring book. The coloring book is coming. It's in the works.
I
It's
actually
for
have
the
the
Marine-
colored
it's for all
book
the
of
Marines out there. It's
Mr.
for,
Rogers.
it's for,
Yeah.
it's for lions and shit, man. Just look for guys like Jason, man. All the Marines in the coloring book.
As long as I can do it outside the lines.
All right, don't eat the crowns. We got it. I know that was funny. It wasn't, but I had to say it anyway.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying this episode with Jack Murphy and Jason Lyons. Every now and again when I do something with the Team House, people like to see Jack and I reunited. And so it's always cool to do this. I feel like the chemistry is still there with these guys who I've known for many years at this point. Before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammo was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design, and it was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. You could find FSM at any state you're at when you go to the dealer when you go in the dealer locator on the site, but you'll get the best deal through us when you go to fsm.com and use the promo code BATTLELINE. You'll get 15% off your first purchase. Once again, fsm.com, promo code BATTLELINE. Longtime supporters of the podcast and Chris. And we also have the best night vision sponsor out there. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to become masters of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. Visit photonisdefense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. That's PHOTONIS defense.com. The best night vision out there. Definitely invest in the best night vision. And with that, let's get back to our episode with Jason Lyons and Jack Murphy. So there's another topic I wanted to hit on with you, in terms of all this government restructuring stuff, and you mentioned Pete Hegseth before. I thought this would be an interesting one. Is actually, I remember we had Colonel Gadsden, right? Am I saying it right on the podcast?
Gadsden, yep.
And you and Colonel Gadsden had kind of a, it was a debate, but it was a respectful debate about the whole renaming of military bases, which, you're in favor of keeping the original names, which we've not now gone back to the original names with Pete Hegseth. It was interesting to talk with Colonel Gadsden because obviously he's going to come from a different perspective as a Black American, a guy who lost his legs in combat. The thing that I wonder now is just like, because this has become such a culture war thing, is it like every time we get a new president in, we're going to have a new executive order and it's going to go back to Fort Bragg? No, it's no longer Fort Bragg.
How much do you think it costs the military to change the sign?
Yeah, I know.
You know what?
Every
Have
year.
one behind the other, and they just remove one.
They should put it. They go get one of those stores that's Connex and just throw it in there. All right, put it back up. Now, Colonel Gadsden. This is Colonel Gadsden's also a West Point officer, and West Point officers wanted to change the names. The enlisted, and with it, and I'm saying all enlisted because Jack can differ with me on this one. With me, enlisted guy going to Fort Benning. I never knew what that was about Fort Benning. I didn't care. Fort Benning to me was, hanging out with guys like Jack kicking. Fort Benning was Ranger Battalion. That was infantry.
Yeah.
That was
Isn't
nothing
it-
to do with,
I mean,
racism or shit like
it
that.
it sounds maybe a little ignorant, Chris, but like you and I, probably both of us, like we didn't really think too hard about Fort Benning
Nah.
or Fort Bragg or like what those names mean. And maybe that was wrong. I don't know. But
I think if we both had become really big racists, yeah, I would have been wrong. But we didn't. We became Rangers. We became, this is the brotherhood. This is the infantry, man. And when I think of Benning, I'll be honest, what pops in my head is Ray Charles' song, Georgia on My Mind. I'm like, I'm going to do a post like that. That's what pops in my head when I look at my old pictures. And I look at my old African-American drill sergeant that looked like the devil, the Satan that I love to death. Love that man. I mean, he was a freaking demon. Nothing racist. It's like, man, Benning's home. Benning is where it started. And then for somebody to piss on it and say, no, Benning means racism. Benning means that you're a Mexican racist. Yeah, it sullies my memory of it, personal memory of it. But I get why some wanted to, but I'm not one of those. And because I've never saw it that way. And I never will. Well, but I'm with you. How much money is it going to cost to keep changing the name? Just do it. Let's move on. Man,
it's
fine.
interesting.
That's what you want to do. Fuck you. I'm not going to call it that. But we don't need to keep spending money back and forth.
And I think that the Army queued on that when they decided to change the name back to Fort Bragg, but they named it after a Union soldier. That they're like, we don't want to change this shit again in 4 years.
Yeah, the way I look at it is the short answer is I don't care.
That's how I feel, but I think it's because I'm not former military.
But the way I look at these sorts of things is the same way I looked at the whole statue issue, Confederate statue issue in the 2020 time period or so. I don't care that you leave them up or take them down. If you're going to leave them up, though, the way I look at it is make sure you're telling the whole fucking story. Put a plaque on there and say, this person fought for the Confederacy, which, turned its back on the Union, the United States, owned slaves. Put the whole story out there so that nobody can say that they didn't know. That's my thing. Leave it up. I don't care, but just tell the whole story. And that also should go to the story of Fort Bragg when soldiers are coming in briefing, whatever it is. Just tell them, this is, Bragg's story. And then they can take it for what it's worth. If they're not racist, okay, great. Now I know it. If they are, they'd be like, awesome. I'm staying here my whole career. Whatever. But I think the problem comes when people jump to one side or the other and they're so entrenched in that side that they can't see what I just said. The middle ground would be leave it Fort Bragg, just make sure everybody knows the whole story of who he was or who, why this other base was named AP Hill, whatever it is, So, but at the end of the day, I don't care.
You know what's interesting is, so I already know that there's going to be people in the comments thinking we're, because of your comments, truthfully, right? Mm-hmm. We're bashing Trump, and I voted for Trump. Chris did as well. Mm-hmm. I will actually defend Trump on this, where, people said that during the whole statue debate, he said there's good people on both sides. And when you watch that in full context, that's totally not what he said. Mm-hmm. If you watch the full context, he said, well, where does it end? He said, should we take down a statue of Thomas Jefferson? He owned slaves. Like, at what point do you, and in the full context, once again, of that quote was he said, there's good people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the white supremacists that were there. I'm talking about the people that were out there protesting. So, yeah, if we do start renaming things, it becomes where does it end? With my own high school, my high school was the Manhasset Indians. I know you have the same thing with the Rebels, but yeah,
it's not the Dixie Rebel. We're not rebels anymore because that's racist, even though our freaking whole football team was African American from Las Vegas. They all were West Coast Bloods and Donner Street Crips and Tonga Crip gangsters. But
so with mine though, I was just gonna finish what I'm saying with the Manhasset Indians where I grew up. Mm-hmm. They changed the name. And the reason I think that didn't sit well with people is like, if it was a group of Native Americans who came out and said, hey, this is offensive to us, we'd like you to change the name. Yep. Understandable. It wasn't. It was a transgender girl who graduated with me and started a petition. And like, there was no one offended on behalf of Native Americans. It was a brave Indian statue that you saw when you walked in my high school. And so I think that's where people worry about the political correctness, because yeah, once you start renaming the bases, then we're going to talk about all the founding fathers who owned slaves. Can we no longer celebrate them? You know, things that were acceptable in the 1700s are no longer acceptable today. And there was actually a really funny comedy skit you find online by, what's his name again? Kyle. He's on Rogan all the time, but he did a skit about going back and retroactively canceling people because like Abraham Lincoln says Negro, and he's like, but Negro is an acceptable word for my time. And he's like, no good. You're canceled, Abraham Lincoln. You know, so like, at what point is that going to end?
Yeah, and anybody who knows me knows that you know, you pointed out earlier, I'm pretty centrist as much as I can.
You are.
You know, I hate politics. I don't trust any politician. I hate politics. So I don't have a problem calling out any side. That, what you just brought up, that, you know, the trans girl, don't give a shit that she's trans, you know, that you can take that out of it. But the fact that she is not Native American and she is the one pushing for this, I have a problem with that. Because how many Native Americans, especially in that tribe, did she talk to before she brought all this up? Probably none. You know, my grandmother, and that's what this tattoo is for, is Lenape. She was Lenape. And that's why I got this tattoo. So if someone like my high schools they were called the Warriors. It's a Native American headdress. Yeah, warrior. And nobody had a problem with it, but it came up during all of this. From what I understand, it all came up and it got shot down because the Lenape, they're called the Sand Hill Indians in the area I'm from. The Sand Hill got together and said, no, that's honoring us. We don't have a problem with that. So it's when people co-opt the anger and the rage outside of that group, that's when we have a problem. Now, you know, we're getting a little philosophical here, but like there were freedom riders back in the 60s who were white. They were murdered for marching with and, you know, protesting with African Americans. Those people I have, you know, that they're heroes. They're heroes for what they did. But it's the person who sits in their little home, you know, sits online and rails about white people. They're white themselves and they barely know any black folks. That's where I have a problem. You know, don't speak for me. That's my thing. That's just me. I'm like, I'm a grown ass man. Just like I don't want somebody on YouTube telling me how to be a man, you know, to my son. I'm not going to let somebody who is not African American speak for me about my, you know, troubles or whatever it is.
I mean, the best example of that I can give, and Chris could attest to this, is, you know, we had Sammy Steigman right here in the team house, who's a Holocaust survivor and is openly a Trump supporter, right? And there were people comparing Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden to a Nazi rally. And like, there was a Holocaust survivor in the front row. There was, and like, there were Jewish speakers talking about how Trump is pro-Israel and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, when that stuff gets taken completely turned around, like, I do have a problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. You know, we were talking earlier about how certain words are just played out. They're just used up. Nazi, although in my view, that's starting to come back around a little bit. Soy boy, snowflake, all that stuff. All that stuff loses its meaning, you know. And so people, I'm going to be straight up honest, and this is the first time I've ever said this publicly on a platform like this. The reason why I don't like Donald Trump is because to me he's a fucking bully. He's a weak bully. He's someone who runs his mouth, as far as I'm concerned, me personally. The things that he says when he's in front of a microphone, he wouldn't say out in the streets. He wouldn't say it out in the streets. And that when you run the greatest country on earth, and I'm saying that as someone who loves this country, the most powerful country on earth. Yeah, I get it. He's not a politician. He says the things that people want to say and all that stuff. But those things have been, you know, wars have been started over less than the things that he's saying. And the fact that he is so comfortable saying these things, for me, it's like.
What in particular do you mean, though?
Canada should be the 51st state.
Yeah,
that's the stupidest.
It is funny hearing him say Governor Trudeau, though.
And if anybody saw his Truth Social post last night about Wayne Gretzky, and if you haven't, go check it out.
What did he say?
Absolutely unhinged. Talking about Wayne Gretzky. He's a great Canadian. You know, he and his wife, I love him. I know him. I'm paraphrasing here. I know them both. But I'm going to make him a free agent. And he agrees that Canada should be the 51st state. But as a Canadian, he has to say, you know, what's
But on
right.
some level, you know, Trump just likes to get people heated.
Okay, but you're the president.
It is true.
Show
Yeah.
some fucking common sense.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And I'm sorry, I'm getting, you know.
Okay, if you were Obama, if you were a black guy, you couldn't say anywhere near this type of.
And that's-
I don't think it has to do with race. I really don't. I think it has more to do with who Trump is. He's just.
And I can take what I'm saying now and I can put that on Biden as well. The shit that he would say, some of the stuff that he would say, I'd be like, what the fuck is this man talking about? Like, and then of
His was
course,
just-
it got worse because after a while he had no idea
That's
what he
yeah.
was saying.
His was less unhinged. 'Cause
Yeah.
It was just, is this guy aware of what's happening?
Exactly. But I think, and again, this is my naivety, and I always say that word wrong, not being in
Naivete.
politics and not caring about politics, is the way I look at it is if you are going to put yourself, want yourself to be in that position, you have to learn when to open your mouth and when to shut your mouth. That's my thing. And I know he's surrounded by people who could be like, maybe you probably shouldn't say that. You know, but something in the brain clicks, and it's not just him. It's not
But
just
the reason
No,
the reason I'll combat that though is that's why he won. If he spoke more
But
like
that
Ron
doesn't make it
DeSantis, he wouldn't have won.
I get it, but that doesn't make it right.
No, it doesn't make it right.
Like,
But
I
he
could
is
say-
he's said himself like fight dirty, say whatever you want, you know, like, and that is what helps get him elected. So I think
And I get it. And
Yeah.
I could say, I'm gonna, for all the people that hate China, I'm first day in office, I'm gonna nuke China. And then I get elected, people are gonna be like, where the fuck's the bombs? What are we dropping here? And then be like, you know, I probably shouldn't have said that, but I said it.
Yeah.
You gotta use your brain. And you know, people say he's a businessman, and maybe he is. That's great. He's proven he's a rich man, he's a billionaire and all that. But I think that most of what he does is ego driven, and
there's no denying that. Yeah.
most presidents, but that doesn't help me, you know, or us, the average American citizen, or at least, you know, the ones who aren't necessarily in his camp, because you're the president for all people. Just like when Barack Obama was in office, I had relatives and friends who said, you know, what has he done for us in the black community? I don't give a shit, because he's the president for all of us, not just black America. And the same thing goes for this president, and the same thing went for the left when it came to Biden. You're the president of all people, be the president for all people. And that should not include insulting everyone who does not agree with you. And that's just me. You know, I'm sure I'm going to get ripped in the comments, and I really don't give a shit.
But
Yeah.
that-
You have to not
that's
give a
what
shit
we
when you do
do.
that.
You know, the only thing Obama did for me and my family is got all my medical premiums and shit raised, and coverage sucks.
Exactly.
So he was all off in that case. But it's when we start electing and we have presidents that are more public figures than presidents, it's never going to end.
No.
I mean, we'll look at even. I did like Ronald Reagan. I really did, but he was an actor, man, and that's where it started. Then Bill Clinton took it to the next level, and then and then even George Bush Jr. took it to the next. I mean, it does become a house of cards. It becomes a reality show.
Yeah.
And here's where we're at. When we did vote for Trump, I didn't. I would again against Biden. Fuck,
For sure,
it was
yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
Or against
But-
Kamala, technically.
Or,
right?
or against Kamala. It's Kamala, whatever it is. Same thing. Tomato. But I was more DeSantis. Ian knows this.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
like
was too,
DeSantis.
yeah.
And the reason I did, he's everything Trump is, but he's packaged and he knows how to do it. He knows how to present it in a professional way as best as you can with the politician. And I do like that as well. I think that may be a military thing. Us, dress right, get our shit 90-degree angles. We want to see that, because to us, that's more of a leader. That's what leadership is. It's, I'm going to kick you in the teeth, and I'm going to dust you off, and I'm going to help you up, and I'm going to go say, hey, let's try again.
Yeah. And
I'm not going to kick you in the teeth, and I'm going to throw mud in your face and keep punching you on the ground. And that's what people wanted to see on both sides.
Mhm.
And I'm with you. I am. I would rather see a DeSantis sitting in that office. I'm glad he's at the State Department. I hope he cleans that place up. But I'm the same way with that. It's like, man, you are the leader of the free world.
And I don't want anyone to
No,
think
go-
that I'm bashing, but I'm just bashing Trump. I'm bashing politicians, period.
Yeah.
No, you
You
bet
know,
you are.
I've always
They're
believed,
shit.
and I found this from a young age. I came to this conclusion that most politicians start out with good intentions, altruistic intentions. Hey, I'd like to see this change, whatever it is, right, left, whatever, progressive, whatever. And then at a certain point in their career, they realize in order to get anything done, out of 10 things, in order to get 5 done, I have to become the very thing that I say I can't stand. And they all become the same thing. They talk out of one side of their mouth, and then they, say something out of the other side of their mouth. And so that's my thing. But I think when it comes to President Trump, it's now there's an extra layer of bravado on top of that I don't think he really actually has. He makes himself out like, I know people, big power lifter type or spec ops type, Chris type people who say that Donald Trump is their version of what a real, or their vision of what a real man looks like. To me, that is what the fuck. That there is no way in hell that I'm going to point at him or Biden or or even Bush and because I'm pointing at any of them and be like, hey son, that's who you should ascribe to be like.
There isn't a president. There not,
no.
Maybe I don't know, George Washington. I mean, because I never met the guys, but he wore a wig. But maybe that's more manly. You could pull the wig off. I don't. I'm whoever thinks that is dumber than a bag of fucking.
Oh, you lose your mic there? Oh, there we go.
And that's
Actually, why can I just get a water tea while we're doing this one or something?
Hey,
You're not tapping out, are you, Jack?
I'd like a Fresca. Can I get a Fresca?
Frappuccino?
Yeah, one of those. Thank you, though. I just didn't want to screw up the mic.
But since we're talking about manly things, give me a Fresca and a
thank you, man.
Frappuccino
Appreciate
with
it.
two half pumps of half and half. But no, that whoever's I don't know why somebody would say that. If you love him as your president, and again, I'd vote for him again against Kamala or Biden, whoever, 100% of the time. But that's not how a man should act. That's
I think it's just that people line up in these cults of who their political party is, and I've never been that way.
Yeah,
I think
same.
because we've all seen to some extent some of the inside. I mean, when you're talking about why people go into politics and how everything changes, I mean, a lot of that is also the super PACs, the fact that, hey, you want to get reelected, whether it's the NRA or APAC or a left-wing political action committee that you could think of, like, the Bloomberg one that he had that was the anti-gun. Well, if you don't vote this way on this bill, we're not going to give you an A rating. And then you have to slowly start to, change your values and because you want to stay in office. And then for many of them, the longer they stay in office, the longer they get to make money when you look at all of their net worth.
Absolutely.
Because then they start trading stocks on intel that they have. In terms of Trump, which you'll certainly agree with me on, but like him starting his own Trump coin, which go look at, people think Bitcoin is dropping a lot right now. Go look at the price of Trump coin. Anyone who invested in Trump coin is not doing very well. And it's basically his own version of insider trading.
But then you have a Nancy Pelosi who is, doing her insider trading and stuff like
Dan
that.
Crenshaw doing the same shit.
Yeah, they're just hypocrites. It's all they're all hypocrites. And we were talking about this earlier. It's comical to me how these people in these public facing positions will say one thing, and again, the internet wins every time. They'll post things. Oh my God, what the hell's her name? Ran for president, South Carolina.
Nikki Haley.
No, Nikki Haley.
Nikki
I was going to say Nikki Gabbard, but I'm confusing two people.
So she recently, she was responding to President Trump's comments about Zelensky, being a dictator, things like that. I'm sure you saw that. And she, responded in the negative and said, these are talking points for Putin or something like that. And then people just ripped her up in the comments and were like, aren't you the same person who was kissing his ass until you didn't get a cabinet spot? And now all of a sudden he's the bad guy. And it's just funny to me. Like, I love seeing that stuff because, and again, this is why I don't post on social media. I'll put my grandkids up there and you can say, damn, them kids are ugly or something like that. But that's the most you're getting out of me because I don't post political stuff. I don't post any stuff because that stuff comes back around
Yeah.
to haunt you.
Always.
Well, this can too. People could find this podcast. And, you know,
Hey, come see me.
Yeah.
That's all. I will stand by everything I said. I have no problem
Yeah.
with it whatsoever. None.
Man, the first thing that pops up search my name is that Benghazi
president.
survivor says he's
Oh.
going to choke out a sitting president. That's
Yeah. Exactly.
because it's on from Pete Hegseth, of course. That was a great interview. Speaking of Pete Hegseth,
But can I just say one thing?
that's
before
all
we
I want to
move
say
on?
about Pete
I'll
Hegseth.
let you
Anyway,
say whatever you want to add, but I was just going to say, you know what was the funniest thing with Nikki Haley? As someone who admittedly does find Trump very funny, whether it's, you know, appropriate or not, I don't know if you saw, did you see, this was the funniest thing if you go look it up. Harold could possibly even find it on screen. Nikki Haley at the RNC, you know, Republicans generally at this point do not like Nikki Haley. She went up there and she started getting booed. And as she gets booed, she said, President Trump invited me to speak in the spirit of unity. Trump clearly turns to JD Vance and he goes, I didn't invite her to speak. She asked me to speak, which I thought was the funniest thing.
I mean, yeah, it's funny. And he's, you know, again, these are all human beings. You know, they have families, they have, you know, lives and all that other stuff. But if you're front facing, you know, number one, you have to play. I hate saying play the part, but you have to play the part. There were people that you can point at, or presidents you can point at and be like, they were presidential, meaning they played the part. They stayed in their box. Obviously, President Trump does not stay in the box, and that's okay. But when it becomes dangerous is when you start going after other world leaders. You start threatening NATO, our partners. You start doing things like that. That's where I have a problem. He can joke all he wants. I don't care.
Yeah.
We can sit in a room, he and I, and go back and forth. He ain't going to win, but we can go back and forth. I have no problem with that, you know. But when you get on the world stage and you start insulting partners and saying things like, even if you misspoke, if he misspoke when he talked about turning Gaza into, or alluding to turning it into a resort,
Yeah, which has been ridiculous.
area, that was just dumb. That was just
I think a lot of that was truthfully something that Netanyahu has always wanted to do, right? And I think he kind of is.
And that's when you turn and
Yeah.
say, okay, well, too bad I'm not talking about that on national television or international
They're
television.
sort of like unforced errors, right? That like instigating all these conflicts with Five Eyes partners, like those conflicts were not there. We never had any beef with Canada.
That's my thing.
Or Denmark is not in Five Eyes, but still, they were very supportive of us through the war on terror. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I've said that too. You know, in terms of
it's because politics is a reality show.
right now, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
It
really
is.
is.
It's,
You're right,
and we
Chris.
didn't just end up there. It's been a
Absolutely.
When you went to get a beer, I think that's where me and Jason were saying it started back. I mean, Reagan was an actor, and I love Ronald. I love Ronald. I thought he did. Granted, I was a kid at that time. Gas was plentiful. Everything was good. My parents were happy. I remember, but he was still an actor, and it just progressed to the Clinton playing saxophone in the White House and finger banging allegedly your aide. I mean, it's and saying I didn't exhale or inhale, whatever the hell he did.
You're right, Chris. And the it's our government itself, the politicians, but also the media have packaged politics as entertainment
Entertainment
for decades.
And now it's all, well, now more than ever because of the 24/7 news network.
Absolutely.
And you know what I was going to say though, in terms of tweets coming back to bite you in the ass, with the media itself, the latest one that I think is pretty crazy. Have you seen the stuff with Jake Tapper?
Yeah.
So
I
Jake
just
Tapper,
saw that last night.
Jake Tapper is on camera saying that, like, if you said Biden was cognitively impaired, you know, you're involved in, you know, horrible slander and all this stuff. And he has now put out a book about how there was a massive cover up of Biden's cognitive decline.
Yep.
When that he partook in.
Shocker, Jake
It's
Tapper lied
amazing.
about. Wow, that's
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Never. Actually, he was at one point in time. I thought I wouldn't call him a friend, but a news person that I could go on and actually talk to, and thought he was a decent guy. And he just, I don't know what happened, man. But is that? I'm putting that 2 cents in there just because of a personal experience and personal relationship I had with him for a little. He was one of the few people at CNN that would say, "Hey, do you want to come?" Yeah, I'll come to your show because you usually treat me fair, which a lot of you people at CNN don't. And to see this happen, I would not have foresaw that coming from Jake Tapper. I would have saw that first coming from someone else, but other than him at CNN, which is shocking. And what's going to happen? Has he lost his mind? Is he getting old? That's kind of, for me, that's kind of sad to see. I know a lot of people are laughing like, yeah, fuck Jake Tapper. We don't like him. But for me personally, it's like, damn, I see that. I'm like, damn, dude.
But what
What are you
shows you that
doing?
it's
What are you
entertainment?
doing?
What shows you that it's entertainment is I was at work last night and I'm looking, I glance up at the monitors and that story comes on and it's on Fox News and they're cheering him on. And so, mortal enemies are, cheering each other on because it supports their narrative. And it's like, where the hell are we? It's crazy, but it's absolutely true.
Do you think they MSNBC's about ready to tank? And where's MSNBC getting most of their exposure? From Fox News. Fox News. Do you
It's
think
crazy.
this is all just a fucking game, man?
Yeah.
Hey, let's you know what? Next 2 years we're gonna tank, and you guys are gonna get a promote. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
Ricky Bobby and what's his,
Yeah.
what's his,
Yeah.
his draft.
Shake and
It's like,
bake. Yeah.
hey, come on, man, let me draft and slingshot engaged this year. I mean, that's what I'm kind of seeing.
They all kind of have to know, I think, that new media is taking over. I
Yep.
mean, not to kiss your ass, but like your appearance on the Sean Ryan show.
Well, that's
millions-
Sean. That ain't nothing to do with my.
But you were still,
That's
you know what I mean? But it's
Sean.
like, go look at the viewership, man. It's millions of views,
Yeah.
millions of streams. And most of these shows on TV, on primetime, are like not even breaking 500,000 viewers. So I really think, man, like new media is taking over. When there was a reason that it was such a coveted thing for Trump to go on Joe Rogan. I mean, who would have ever thought? I can tell you this, man. I remember about 10 years ago, I went to a comedy club in Queens called, I can't remember, it's some initials. But anyway, I went to go see my friend Tracy open for Kurt Metzger. And the host was this hilarious fat gay guy who we now know as Tim Dillon. I would have never thought that guy would have the current vice president, J.D. Vance, on his podcast. But it's like, it's a big deal to be on Tim Dillon's podcast. And you're going to get way more viewers than going on, a random, going on Ari Melber on MSNBC or something. Very few people.
Like some,
in
like
comparison are watching.
CNN with, was it Jen Pataki or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not even comparable.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I just
Yeah.
think that this is a new thing that's happening. I mean, your viewership, I'm looking at the plaque behind here. The Team House shows like Sean Ryan, all these things. I think that people like these discussions that we're having and that we're having right now, even if they're heated in the comments, it's something you said. It's a very real discussion of just sitting around, shooting the shit. You're drinking, talking about whatever the fuck we want to,
I'm
as
drinking.
opposed to on TV, right, where it's these round tables and, I saw
It's sound bites, and it's also 5-minute sound bites that you can't say shit.
Yeah, and I
Believe
saw like an
trying to.
appearance with, and I feel like he won't come on our show, even though he's really good, but sure, Michael Singleton. I saw that when he spoke about, it was on a panel on CNN, he said, these parents don't like boys competing in girls' sports. And this guy on the panel was like, it's not boys competing in girls' sports. You have to apologize. Do not call them. And it's just like, dude, this like policing of what you say. If you go on certain networks, I think people are tired of it. People like real conversations like this.
The producers don't like it. I can tell you right, they don't, because of the things I used to say, and that's when I also stopped doing the shows, but because I wasn't going to have a narrative. They're like, what are you going to talk about? I said, I don't know. What are you going to ask me? I don't know. Can you write out stuff? No, I'm not writing you shit that we're going to talk about. Just ask me questions. I'll answer it.
Yeah.
And it pissed the producers off at Fox all the time. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think now they started to really regulate it. And now people are like, wait a second, I can go on the podcast and say whatever the hell I want. That's what I want to do. I can go to the Team House, and Jack and I may disagree on shit, and we can call each other motherfuckers, but we can do that because it's not scripted and people want to hear that shit, and then actually be friends after. And you can't do that on the mainstream media. And Bill O'Reilly, the first show, I use that as an example, first show I ever went on. I even got 4 million views. I think I said 5 words, and I didn't know what the hell I could say. I was like, did Hillary leave you there? I don't know. I that's pretty much was the interview right there. I mean, how cool. now you can go and do these things and actually speak your mind and sit with, with the interviewer for 6 hours.
Yeah,
And
6
if you
hours.
want to,
That's-
or do
it's insane.
what was the team houses? What was the 30-hour marathon you did?
No,
one time, or-
when you had a live stream on.
Yeah, we did do like a 26-hour,
Jesus.
You
But-
literally
but-
26 hours.
something crazy like that.
But
Yeah.
but if you're going to go on a show, you don't want to try to pack your 5 minutes, because you're like a cat chasing a light on the wall. You can't do it. And then you're going to, maybe that's why they do it, because you're going to say something
Yeah.
that you don't want to say.
Mhm.
You're going to stick your foot in your mouth because you're trying to think at 6 a.m. in the morning and it's not working. And then you say something. Yeah. You say something that is going to haunt you forever. But at least on a podcast, if you say something that's going to haunt you forever, well, you had time to actually think about it, say it. So it's your fucking fault. Now you got to own it.
Yeah, like I'm sitting here
God.
thinking, the whole time I'm like, what? I'm gonna get myself fired. I'm gonna get myself
No,
fired.
no,
And
shit,
then,
no.
then I was like,
No.
you know what? If it happens, it happens. I'm sticking
Well-
by my guns, and these are my values, so I don't care.
Which
if
is
I-
interesting too, because you for years were James Powell
Mhm.
and you were under a pseudonym,
Mhm.
and now you're out in the open as you. So
Yep. Absolutely. And I like I said, I'll stick by my guns, and whether that's family, friends, whatever. I've already cut people off just because of, I don't care what your political views are, but when you start talking about harming a group of people or whatever because you don't agree with what they, and I'm talking about people that are saying that person's a Trump supporter, they need to die. That's some crazy shit. Like, I've cut people off for that, literally saying that President Trump should be killed. And I'm sure somebody's going to cut that and say that I said that President Trump should be killed. But people have said that, and I've sold them. We're done. I have nothing to say to you because that's absolute bullshit. You don't, the man's had 2 attempts on his life, and you don't wish that on anybody. But I'm also comfortable saying I do not like the man, plain and simple. Some of the things I will admit that he has, put forth, I do agree. The designation of cartels as terrorist organization, trying to stop the flow of fentanyl, all that. I agree with all of that stuff. But I'm also comfortable saying I don't agree with X, Y, and Z. Say the same thing about, I could say the same thing about Kamala Harris, about Biden, about Bush, all because they're human beings. They make mistakes. They say stupid shit. The problem I have with people is when they do mental gymnastics to defend the dumb shit that whoever they follow does or says. That's when I can't stand. That's where I have an issue. I'll call out my brother. I have 2 brothers. I'll call out either one of them.
Sure.
If they do dumb shit, we'll talk about it. We'll hash it out. We're done. They make adjustments. We're done. But when people do mental gymnastics and make excuses for what their candidate, their president, whatever has done, that's where I'm just. We talked about this at some
They're
point.
trying
you
to
have just-
rationalize their damn ideologies when their ideologies are challenged. And
Exactly.
maybe it's just taking a step back, like, you know what? Maybe I am fucking wrong.
Yeah.
All right, let me
Yep.
think about this for a
Yep.
little bit. And Ian and I've had these conversations where he's made me, where I did you know what, Ian? You have a point there.
Yep.
Maybe I am
Sure, I have
fucking.
too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's happened maybe twice, but it's happened. Okay, more than
But
twice.
also, you and I are not
But
the thing that you're describing, right, is these people who like go harder for their politicians.
yeah, and they double
Their
down.
own lives.
Exactly.
Like,
Yep.
it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because
There's nothing wrong with just saying, I love that guy or that girl, but that was fucking wrong. They should not have done or said that. And then keep moving. Just keep moving,
We were called weren't we called Nazis because we didn't agree with the Gaza Strip with them?
no, it
We
wasn't
didn't
for
get
that.
that?
We got because you and I said that we shouldn't be sending as much money to Ukraine as we
To
do.
Ukraine, so
I could
we're
probably
Nazis.
find the-
So we're Nazis.
Yeah, I could
We're
probably
Nazis.
find the Instagram post. He said that we were repeating white supremacist talking points.
Oh, okay.
And then I said, I was like, but I'm Jewish and Chris is Mexican.
Yeah,
He's
so-
like, he's like, I know that, but still
yeah,
white supremacist.
viva la raza, pendejo. Way to go, man.
I've been calling
Nice
you
job.
guys Nazis for years, and I guess I'll have to back off of that. I didn't know that. Sorry.
No, the
Sorry.
actual really white guy calling us Nazis. That's all. He's so white. He's so white. He's pink, man. Come on.
So you know what I want to make sure we get into here? I don't even know how long we've been going so far, actually. But okay, cool. Oh, so we got time. But the last time I saw you was at the Team House party.
Yep.
and we got into a discussion because you and I don't drink,
Mhm.
but I used to drink. I'm not, for those who don't know, I'm not like an alcoholic who got sober or something. I just don't drink anymore. But you were telling me you have never gotten drunk. And then that led to some great stories of you knocking out fellow Marines. And I said, you have to tell this on the podcast.
Yeah. God, I hope he's listening too. So, all right, just to clarify, I have been drunk before, but maybe twice in my life.
Okay.
Alcohol, I never liked the taste of it. It just never was my thing. So I gave it up like 25 years ago.
Which, Chris, you would know better than, isn't that like unheard of for a Marine?
Yeah, dude. I'm like, what? Are
Yeah.
you sure you're
Yeah,
all right, then you're
last
lying.
beer-
You
my
fucking
last beer-
also, he's such a liar, dude. Come on, I know you. Bathtub's full of fucking jungle juice. I know you're like bathing in it. Don't lie to me, Jason. Come on.
So my last beer was back in 2000. I was in Korea. One of
Wow,
my
2000.
Marines was being promoted,
25 years.
and I hoisted a beer to him, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can stop. And I just never touched it again. Now I will say, like, I've had a sip. You know, if somebody's like, hey, just taste this. That's nasty. You know, that just reconfirms why I don't drink. So yeah. Was it Camp Lejeune? I don't even know what year it was. Must have been 94. No, 95, 96. We were back at Lejeune after we had come out of Somalia and Haiti. We're back at the barracks. One of my Marines comes up to me, or one of my squad mates comes up to me. He's like, listen, man, we're going out tonight. I know you're not really a drinker. Can you hold my keys for me? And no matter what I do, it's the classic, no matter what I say,
No matter
do
what
not give me my keys back. Okay, you're sure? Yes. So we all go out. He gets smashed up, comes over, give him my fucking keys. Nope. And he's like, give him my fucking keys. No, you're not getting them. So someone else said, hey, man, I'll bring him back. Okay. So I go back to the barracks. Now, in these days, you know, no cell phones. So I'm on a payphone in the breezeway there, and I hear this crash, like glass crashing. And so I'm like, wow, that's crazy. One of the Marines comes running. He's like, yo, man, get off the phone. And I'm like, I got to go. Get off the phone, walk out. And my barracks room was on the first deck. So I see that Marine out in front of my room, and he's like, fuck you, come out, you fucking asshole, this and that. So as I get closer, I see he has thrown a brick through my window, through the big window, and it landed on my roommate. He was asleep. Now he's in the bed like, what the hell is happening? You know, he's got a brick and glass all over him. So I'm like, yo, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he's like, you took my fucking keys. I was like, you told me to take them. So I don't know if you're going to have to edit this. You know what? I'm just going to say he said the N-word. So I said to him, you have one more time to say that word. And he's like, fuck you, Nip. Boop. Out cold. So he hits the ground. I'm on top of him. I'm hitting him. And then all of a sudden I hear, he was such a bitch. One of the squad leaders, he is this little guy. And he's like, I hear, hey, stop that. Stop that. You don't do that. This dude turns me around and slaps me across the face. Anyone who knows me knows, and I'm going to say this for anybody who's got something to say to me, there are three things you can do that can cause me to lose my shit. Spit in my face, do something to my children, or slap me. He got knocked out too. So, yeah, so there's two people hurting on the ground. So everybody breaks everything up. That MPs were never called. I don't think, because I never dealt with them.
Like shit, that's fucking hood, man. That's the audio camp for the shit. We ain't fucking with them.
So we put like plastic or something on the window. Now it's summertime, so we're not like we're freezing cold. I'm in my barracks room. Now this is a Friday night. Saturday morning, there's a knock at the door, and it's our platoon sergeant. And we did not like each other at all. And he comes in the room, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm dead. So he comes in. And he tells my roommate to get out. And he's like, heard about what happened last night. I'm like, yes, Staff Sergeant. And he's like, he really called you that word? And I was like, yes, Staff Sergeant. So he turns, he starts to walk out the door, and he's like, good job. He was black too, so that helped. But so we threw the fist up.
Racist Marines beating up all the white folks. What are you doing, man?
Actually, he was Mexican.
Dirty Mexicans, they're always starting shit with the whites and the blacks, man. We can't, man.
Yeah. So nothing was ever said about it again. Thank God.
So did he say Mayate or did he?
No,
say
he
the
called
N-word?
me the N-word. Yeah, he
Oh,
said.
okay.
I wouldn't
I
have
thought he would
understood.
at
If
least
he had
say
said my
what?
auntie, I'd have been like, yeah, you too, brother. I wouldn't know
You,
what that means.
you don't know what the hell he meant. That's why you say that, man.
So yes, yeah. So there were a lot of drunk stories. We
That's
had
awesome.
one. We were in no, we were in Italy. Yeah, we're in Naples, and we get off the ship. We were on USS Incheon. We got off the boat for Liberty, and myself and another corporal at the time. We were part of the shore patrol. I don't even think they called it that. But we're going around. We're checking on our Marines and everything, and sailors. So we go back to the ship, and we had seen one of our Marines. He was trash. So we're like, get him back to the boat and get him in his rack. So I go back. Some of my boys are, they're playing bones, and so I sit down with them, and we're doing our thing. We're talking. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody like screaming, like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And so I run around the side of the racks, and that Marine he made it back to the boat all right. Well, he was in his rack, and he's like, I got to piss. Gets out of his rack, pulls his junk out, pisses on the Marine right below him. And the guy's like, just like freaking out. And so we had to pull him off. And now this Marine who he pissed on is like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", just this massive dude. I ran into him in Afghanistan. He left the Marine Corps, went to 10th Mountain, and then went to the to selection Q course, and he was on an ODA. Yeah, he was on an ODA over in Afghanistan. I ran into him, and he was gonna kill this kid. And somebody actually had to move his rack, like they cleaned his rack up and put him in a different part of the berthing area because he was like, if you leave me alone with him, he's dead. Yeah, so that's drunk Marines for you. Yeah.
Drunk Marines.
Yeah.
Was he Mexican too? The guy that pissed on him?
No,
Okay.
it was a white dude.
Oh, damn it. I
Y'all-
thought we were going to be 2-0 right there. Starting shit. Man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
funny. And that is the worst thing you can do to a dude to demasculate him is slap him.
Yeah, don't slap.
I don't know what he was thinking, which is cool.
Don't.
Man, like you do punch him, but when you slap a dude, that's like, hey, dude, you're a bitch.
Yeah,
And that's, man, you did well, man. Proud of you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Nick Cage and Con Air.
And actually, that's not the first. Well, that was the first time, but that's not the only time I've knocked someone out for saying that word.
Okay, well now you have to tell the story.
Now you have to say.
So
yeah, okay,
if my best friend is listening, he'll know. So I worked, I'll just say in the nuclear industry, and we did some training at a site. It's like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I was out of the Marine Corps at this time. And so I'm leaving the site, and there's this highway, and it was deserted. There was nobody out there. So I pull out, and this van comes flying up behind me, like flashing his lights, all kinds of stuff, weaving. So I'm like trying to let this person go by. They're not doing it. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So get to this one traffic light, and he's like still flashing his high beams behind me. And I'm like, what the hell is my car on fire? What the hell's going on? So I said to myself, if I look in the rearview mirror and this guy is out of his car or whoever, we're going to have a problem. Well, sure enough, I see their door open. So I look in the side view mirror, walking up the side. So I get out. I'm like, what's the problem, man? He's like, you fucking cut me off. I was like, you were nowhere near me. I didn't cut you off. He's like, fuck you, nigga. Nope. That's all I got was out cold. Well, because I'm me and I'm an idiot, part of my brain was saying, haul ass, Negro. I said it. The other part of me was like, pick this dude up and do not leave him in the middle of this road. So I picked him up, dragged him to the side of the road, moved his truck for him to the side of the road. And I'm just like I'm like slapping the guy in the face. That was the one time you can slap me if I'm out cold. Slapping this guy in the face. I'm like, yo, man, you all right? He gets up. He looks at me and he jumps back and he's like, hey, what happened? What happened? So I told him, I was like, listen, man, I'm sorry you used that word with me. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm going through some shit right now. I shouldn't have said it. And I'm like, do you want to call the cops? He says no. And I'm thinking, and for whatever reason, around this time, this is in New Jersey, where I'm from. In Jersey, there was like this spate of people falling and either getting hit, falling back, knocking, and they died. So that's what was going through my mind. I was like, this guy is going to hemorrhage. He's going to die. So I'm like, you want to call an ambulance? No, I'm good. So put him back in his truck or whatever. He drives off. My whole ride home, I'm thinking, your black ass is about to get pulled over. You're going to jail. You are going to never heard anything else about it. So when I told my
Rightly
best
so.
friend we worked
Yeah,
together,
now you really are going to lose.
now I am going to jail. Yeah, they're like, that's that dude
Lock
right
him
there
up.
that killed John.
Look
Yeah,
at
so so when I told my best friend about it, the next day he immediately put "Mama Said Knock You Out" by LL Cool J as his ringtone when I call him, and to this day, that's the thing.
That whole time I was thinking of the Ice Cube's dad on Friday.
Yeah.
Hey, young man, standing on top of young man.
You got knocked the
fuck out.
And I'm no
Harold, if you
trust
can
me.
find that, you gotta put that shit in there when he says, young man, you got knocked the fuck out.
And trust me, I'm no tough guy. I'm not, that's not my thing, but there are just certain things. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that words are just words, but there's just certain things I just can't.
That's when being triggered, actually there was consequences, physical consequences when you triggered somebody.
Absolutely.
Just to someone on social media, it's like, dude, you triggered Jason, you're getting knocked the fuck out. It ain't gonna be something on social media.
And I mean, you're a powerful dude, as we mentioned. I mean, people might be wondering, what are your max lifts as a power?
So, all right. So I'm going to have to go back in time for this one because I blew my back out. L3, L4 is just destroyed after surgery.
Damn.
So
surgery? You get surgery and
yeah.
everything?
I'm supposed to get surgery. We'll see. But I did that on my heaviest lift, which was a 675 deadlift. But I felt fine. I did the deadlift,
Didn't feel pop or nothing? No nothing?
Nope, felt
Really?
fine. 2 days later, I couldn't walk. And then I competed right after that. So the drive home, my ex-wife had to, I was trying to be tough guy. I can drive. I'm fine. We get 2 miles and I'm like, baby, I need you to drive. So I'd have to lay in the back seat and everything. So 675 was my top dead.
Damn.
My squat is very weak. It was 550. Very, very
it's
weak.
very, very weak.
No, it's very
Compared to people like Mike.
It's very weak.
and
Yeah,
everybody.
very weak.
And then my top bench is 405. So
Man,
yeah, but
that's awesome.
now I'm more just maintaining. I'm like an old shark. I have to work out. If I feel like if I stop, I'm gonna die. So I don't lift to compete. I lift just to maintain.
Have you seen that? Is it the documentary? Was it Lee Haney? I forget who. The great
Because I'm thinking of, I saw the one on Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah,
where
oh
he
my
just.
God.
I mean, is that? I mean, because that's what the route you would be
that's
going.
the route
And he was, and that dude that's a great documentary on
Yeah, I
it.
saw
But
that.
it is sad because I grew up Joe Weider, weight books and everything, and he was the man. You know,
Yeah,
Ronnie
yeah.
Coleman,
Oh,
Lee
Ronnie
Haney,
Coleman.
Rich Gaspari, all those
Yep.
guys, and then to watch him just. Is that what? Because his back didn't he hurt
Yeah,
his back? Just
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
training.
he I think he was squatting 800 pounds.
Yeah.
And for reps, and he did it. And afterwards, he goes and sits down. He's like, I think
That's how it sounds too, yeah.
Yeah, it might have popped something in my back. You just blew out your entire spine. They literally had to do surgery through his neck. They opened up his neck, his throat here, went through it, and then his lower back because the doctor said you basically just compressed everything to, it's
See,
just mush.
the element that he has, though, that you don't have, which is the obvious one, is the steroids factor.
of
because
course.
your body can only physically lift so much, but and your
Yeah.
bone structure,
Yeah.
but the steroids are basically making you do things that your body cannot actually
Absolutely.
physically handle.
Yeah.
You have the muscle to do it,
Yeah.
but your spine and your body structure is don't
Yeah.
do this.
You just
So,
can't. Yeah.
knowing you, I assume you're 100% natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, no, because you don't.
We have questions.
He's a muscular dude, but you don't look like one of these roided out guys, which we've all kind of encountered. And I feel like, when you have that element added, it's a complete recipe for
Absolutely.
disaster.
And the way I look at it is Ronnie Coleman was being paid to look the way he looks and to do the things he did. I'm not being paid. So I competed, I think, 4 or 5 times. And then after that last one, I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. And even my coach is like, it's probably not a good idea. There's no reason for you to.
And the crazy thing when you say he was getting paid, he wasn't competing as a power lifter.
No.
He was just a bodybuilder.
bodybuilder.
A lot of those guys don't lift like he
Yeah.
did. It's insane, man. And he was a police officer most of that time.
Yeah.
Right.
That was amazing. Just worship. I did. I grew up worshiping guys like that.
Absolutely.
It's just to me, it was just cool. I didn't really know what steroids were until college, anyway. But
It's so common
so I
now,
didn't
too.
care.
steroids, especially with young kids.
Yeah, I
the,
see it at the gym all the time.
teenagers.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of clinics where you're going to go and have it done like lawfully.
Yeah,
Because
like
it's
before
all
it was like,
completely legal now.
yeah, people would be like behind the scenes, meet me behind the alley and get me some of that trend and all. Now it's like I just ordered. Hey, Ma, my trend should be coming in the mail.
Dude, we used to
Give me some
sell
of
it.
that trend, by the
Me and
way.
my buddy, we drive across Mexico. We
Mhm.
purchase from a Mexican doctor. We'd purchase prescriptions and
Yeah,
we'd go buy it from a Mexican pharmacy because it wasn't legal. People thought you could go to Mexico and just buy it over the counter. You couldn't.
Yep.
I knew. As we used to. That's why I didn't get picked for HRT and FBI, is because I admitted to selling steroids back when I was in college, and it was a controlled substance at that time. Now, damn near everybody's doing it
Yeah.
because it is. It's free testosterone. It's fucking steroids, guys. You're doing anadrol. I'm sorry. That's what you're doing.
And you
But-
know what I hate? I have to say.
But it was a completely, and it was. I felt like a little gangster, man. Driving.
You were.
Let's go see that. Let's go see that doctor. Yeah, man.
Dude,
Yeah,
dude,
man.
I-
And we come back with my vehicle. I don't know how we didn't get busted, and it was just packed with just steroids.
I take and I don't think I've ever like talked about
You
this
told
like,
me this.
publicly.
I know where
but
you're
no, I take a pill, a pharmaceutical to increase testosterone rate.
But you're taking it. You're not taking six freaking. Like some of these
Yeah.
guys are taking.
No.
milligrams of this shit.
It's a prescription drug through a doctor, and it's doubled the testosterone rate over a year. So
well, that's a thing now in the special operations in the law enforcement community. I think they call it operator syndrome. What's his name from the Valhalla FT or whatever? Nate, he talks about it. I watched a video where he said there's a new phenomenon called, I think it's operator syndrome, where they're finding that special operators, because of the ups and downs of the, combat deployments, like you're in contact, and then it's like complete boredom, and it lowers they're finding it lowers your testosterone levels. And I'm not a doctor, so hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn with it, but now they're advocating for when these operators come back, that they'll be able to go on a regimen of testosterone to try to help those levels, get back to where they were.
And as long as it's a normal
Exactly.
level, which is what
And
Jack is
that's
doing.
because
Yeah.
that is the I do. I drive a lot to all my places, all the places I speak, and I love listening to off the wall podcast things and that's one of them I caught is, and I agree with this doctor saying it's for the people that need it. You're getting older and you're man, we'll prescribe it, but we're finding that it's younger and younger people coming in that don't need it, that have normal levels, or the older guys are coming in and they're needing more and more and more because the body stops making it. So we have to make up for it. And he says, that's the problem. And I agree with that. And I know I've seen it with some of my friends, and I'm, hey guys, you are my friends. But I know you're doing it. And you're not doing it healthy, because I used to do it unhealthy.
Yeah.
And because I used to sell, guys, I sold this shit. That's why I sold this shit. I used to do it myself, unhealthy, stick myself.
But
so there is unhealthy and healthy levels to do it. But man, it's just, you cross the line. People cross the line because you do feel good.
Yeah.
You feel great. You feel strong. Your sex drive is up, especially as old guys that lose it.
Yeah.
But where does it end? Where do you stop? Because you have to continue to increase that dosage.
Yeah.
Or if you're younger, why the hell are you doing it if you're 25? You don't need that shit.
Yep.
I guess. I'm sorry, I cut
was
you
gonna
off.
mention. Well, yeah. Do you want to say something? Or,
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, there's actually a guy that I think he may follow Battle Line Podcast on Instagram, and I follow him because he's a Marine and he gives a lot of interesting takes. I could call him that. I don't remember his exact handle, but anyway, he's been kind of like slinging testosterone on his Instagram.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with it is he'll put up these videos where he's like, "Hey guys, do you want to have more energy? Do you want to lift more? Do you want to have
I know
be
exactly.
more positive?"
True.
Yeah, but I think to put just that out and not the negatives is very irresponsible. Because for one, this guy's just a Marine. He's not a doctor, and I'm pretty sure if you're a 20-year-old and you hit him up, he's going to tell you where to go and how to do this, even though you don't need that if you're a 20.
And I can't knock that because I did it when I was 20.
And I think I know who you're talking. I think I know who you're talking about.
This is Instagram store with a B.
No.
Okay.
this might be some.
Also, we got two those damn
Yeah,
Marines. Are
there's a couple of them.
doing illegal shit, man.
and knocking Mexicans out.
Knocking
Okay.
people out,
You know?
knocking Mexicans out, and doing illegal shit. Dude.
So at least the guy that I know, the Marine that I know, and then there's another guy who does the same thing. What they do, their program when it comes to as far as testosterone is concerned, they will link you with a doctor.
I'm sure they do that, but
put
as
you
you
on-
know, there's doctors now who will just
Exactly, who
Yeah.
will just hand it out like candy.
because it's legal now.
Yeah, so I think if it was like, hey, we will do the blood work for you, and then you have to go to your doctor to get it done, that would be
But
better.
there's doctors now, because I've just seen from documentaries, that'll kind of tell you how to fake the blood work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy shit going on. So yeah, I just the same way that, like, look, I'm personally, this is probably very RFK Jr., but I'm personally very in favor of if we, like the rest of the world, took these commercials off TV,
Yeah,
prescribing
I
every
love it.
drug under the sun, because we're the
Yeah.
only country other than New Zealand that does that. But at least in those commercials, they say you may have, like, God
After
knows what.
commercial
It's like
is all this
suicidal
stuff.
thoughts.
Yeah,
blah,
you
blah.
might-
And then
your
you're
penis
like,
might
all right,
shrink even smaller. Your balls
yeah,
might-
and then you're like, you know
might
what?
use-
Maybe I won't do this.
Yeah.
But if you're on Instagram saying all the wonderful positives
Yeah.
of taking testosterone and you give no negatives,
Yeah.
I think that's extremely irresponsible.
Absolutely.
Because you are going to be on a product for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You are, there's a ton of negatives. to
But
this,
there
so.
is I agree, and I did love listening to these doctors. I wish I remember the doctor. It's an MD podcast. I love listening to these guys, and I do agree that there are ages, because emotionally, especially if you are a combat veteran or a veteran, regardless, or just anyone, a normal man growing up, you get to your 50s and 60s, it does fuck with your emotions, man, and you want to be up there positive, and you want to take it to where you feel like a man again, I
Yeah.
guess. But when it becomes abusive, and that's the problem, is how do you, if it's not, you can't regulate it, but then if we don't regulate it, then people are going to abuse it. Then the kids are going to start taking it, and 20-year-olds that don't need it, at least I did it illegally.
Yeah.
There was some consequences to it. I mean, now you can just go get it. I mean, I had to actually work for it, and then I had to be careful when I was doing it. So there was still some, like, man, I don't know if I should be doing this. And then that's the reason I got off it, is because holy shit, I almost got caught. All right, I'm not doing this shit anymore. It's not worth
It reminds me of the veterans that did psychedelics after
was
the
just gonna
Vietnam
bring it
War.
up.
Yeah.
That they got into LSD in the 1970s or 1980s, and then all of a sudden it became kind of mainstreamed, nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's really.
Yeah.
Rob
VA
O'Neill has been
is-
talking about doing ibogaine, and there's guys talking about doing ayahuasca and all this. And yeah, I don't know if your guys' feelings on veterans using psychedelics to treat post-traumatic stress. Like, if you think this is good or bad. Like, truthfully, in Rob's case, right? Because we've spoken about it before. Like, just being honest, right? Love the guy, but it's like, this is a guy who's had substance abuse issues. Obviously, he's gotten arrested with that. And I do think, should you be screwing around with all this other stuff? But at least according to him, it's helping him out. I don't know. I mean,
I've heard that from other people, that like it's not a drug.
it's like
not-
something Leo Jenkins would say, though, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But if it's like a net positive for people and
Yeah.
it helps them,
Yeah.
then
I agree.
maybe
In a
it's like
controlled
okay.
environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I don't know enough about it. I personally don't think I would do it, because I'm the dude who would take one hit and be running butt ass naked down Broadway with a firecracker.
You're a
on my
street
ass,
kid.
I look forward to that.
And then I'd be
I do.
living in the mountains for the rest of my life because I, had a bad trip. That's
Yeah.
just me.
I've been like that on weed.
Yeah, and that's why I've never done a drug, and I won't do a drug, because again, I'm the dude who just one hit and I'm either a complete and utter addict, or I'm blowing up buildings or something. So
Project
just-
Mayhem.
what's that? Yeah. I would be on the poster of "Don't do drugs." That would be, So I don't do it, but I think in a controlled environment, from what I've read and heard, I guess it can be a good thing. But then I did see a video just last week. They took a group of like 8 men, and I don't know what they gave them, but 7 of them were fine, and one of them just like freaked out. Like, he said, "I'll never come back and do this again." So I guess it's just individual.
You're missing out on weed, dude. I don't know what I used to smoke the shit out. Did steroids, smoke weed. Man, I went to practice high once, man. I was still catching passes. At least I thought I was. Coach was like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude?
This is baseball.
Coach,
What are you
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I just see 5 footballs and everything's moving slow. Yeah, I just know hell you grow up, but I'm with you on anything that works.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
But the problem, it always turns into where I need more. I need more.
Mm.
And whether that's physically addicting or mentally, emotionally addicting. And I say always, but it does with a lot of people. But if you can handle it and you do what your doctor says I think if it becomes medicinal, then yeah, I want, if it helps a veteran out, hey man,
Yeah.
well, let's do it.
Yep.
And I say with the testosterone, there's got to be a lot of self-responsibility, just like drinking. I mean, shit, man, come on. Do you not think I feel conflicted? I have a vodka, I have alcohol, and alcohol doesn't help
I'm holding it up.
with a lot of veterans. Yeah, there it is. Doesn't have a lot of veterans issues. It doesn't. I mean, it'll drive you. But there also, I mean, I can't be responsible for all the veterans out there, man. And there's a lot of veterans that enjoy a drink and with their wife or enjoy with the boys, and that's what helps them as well. So it comes down to self-responsibility, man. I'm down for anything as long as it's not in excess and you don't go down the rabbit hole and you don't turn out like Jason running bucket naked, lighting buildings on fire, then moving up to the mountains.
They never caught me.
Yeah, never gonna, you know. But the testosterone too. I am completely for it. I know it works. I know that it makes you feel a hell of a lot better.
Which is interestingly, by the way,
But you gotta be responsible with it. And I hate it when I see guys doing it and they do it in excess because they want to look like Ronnie Coleman.
yeah. I was going to
that's
say
what-
it's interesting though how you're saying, you know, on some level you could advocate for it, because I also know, like, because we're completely open, that you don't do it, although you're in the age range where it would be completely responsible for you in your mid 50s to be like, hey, I'm hopping on this.
I really haven't. I really don't need it. I still get really good boners, dude. I don't. I didn't need it. I work out what I did when I started to feel it, because you do. Jack, I don't know if you felt, but you could feel. I could feel my, not just one day waking up and like I can't. My testosterone levels down, but you feel more lethargic. You feel less energy. You know, and you don't get as many boners. You know, you're not doing it. Do people still say boners? Am I dating myself right there? Is that what
I think that there's kind of like a misnomer or a misconception that a lot of people, oh, sorry guys, think that, you know, doing testosterone is about like sex. There's some sex thing about it.
Well, there is. So
There might be, there might be, but a lot more of it has to do with like your energy levels.
Your energy and your morale. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just feeling good.
Yeah.
I agree. It's all part of it. It's not Viagra. That's not.
Yeah.
That's not what's supposed to be. But I said, you know what? Because of my experience using steroids in college at excess level. I mean, man, I was benching 405 as a 180-pound wide receiver running a 4.5 40 in college, man. Now, you know, also had back issues and knee issues, and I've got a new hip and new knees. Everybody's breaking down. But what I'm saying is that I say I'm not going to take it. I'll just up my workouts. I'll eat more red meat, even though that may be cancerous. I'm not going to do it until I really need to, and it has worked out so far. And I cut out the drinking. I did. I cut out the alcohol. I had to. There's always a give and take, man. I didn't want to. I like drinking. I love my alcohol. I love drinking my vodka with lime and Sprite. Man, I could go through it, man. But it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And eventually I probably will start having to take some free testosterone, but not until my emotional levels. Emotionally, I feel like I need it to wake up in the morning and get out of bed. So yeah, that's why I'm not against it. For me, I found another route. I'm prolonging it, just like I prolonged my hip surgery and my new knees. I mean, I prolonged it as long as I could, and I'll know when it's time. And then when I go, I'm going to say, give me fucking 800 milligrams of that shit. So,
Bought my own.
but I'm always for it as long as it's not in excess or you're not utilizing it like I did. It was irresponsible. It was to be a good football player. It was an ego. It was ego.
But I feel like now that you had those experiences, probably having a son who's like, what, 19 or so, like
He's 20, and I always ask him
20.
if he's on steroids. I was like, "Are you on steroids, dude?"
But you can always relay your experience, right? Because if you didn't have that experience, then you can't speak as someone who.
Yeah, I do, but he
talking
don't
about.
listen to me. He's a 20-year-old kid that is bigger than me. He's faster than I. He's fast as shit.
But he's not looking to do steroids because he's a soccer player, right?
Then he runs track, college track now. He's a 60 meter sprinter and a 100-meter sprinter, and it's awesome to see this little white boy, even though he's a quarter Mexican. He doesn't claim it because he looks German like my wife.
He looks
Competing
like
with
you,
all
just from
compete
looking
with
at
all the
his
brothers, man. Don't get hey Jason when he beats a brother, don't you think? Yeah, Benito, arriba. So, but don't think that don't pump me up, man. He can beat the white boys all day, but when he runs by a brother, Dad's feeling fucking good right there.
It's a pulled hamstring. You know,
It's a that's
we don't say that every time.
no, but
That's funny.
you're right, Ian. But when you eventually have kids, if
Maybe,
you ever
who
do,
knows,
or
yeah.
if Jack ever does.
Jack does. Jack's got his daughter.
Little girl.
Oh, you got your daughter. What am I saying? You got your yeah. Wait for that one, man. Daughter's dating.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
But no, you can, but they don't listen. And I don't know. I know I monopolize this, but I do want to get your take on the testosterone, a little bit more, Jack and Jason, please, because maybe I'm way out of my element.
Yeah, so I'm on it. I don't know if I said that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
do that. Okay.
it's a gel. So the way it happened for me was, first and foremost, never had a problem with the sex drive. Let's just put that out there in the stratosphere.
Good cover story.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Second
the
of
cover
all-
story.
Should we bring Jason's girlfriend who's watching us as we do this?
My girlfriend, my
Oh,
doctor
she in the
comes
room?
walking in.
Yeah, she's right.
Appreciate
Part of
it.
it.
Oh Lord, okay, tell her to come in and do
Did
this.
she give a thumbs up? Is that what you feel like?
It's come here, girl. I'm just playing.
Everyone here loves and respects you.
So for me, it was exhausted by 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was just dragging ass. It was that, having trouble concentrating, things like that. And then also I was at the height of my powerlifting. So I was strongest. I was the strongest I ever was, all that, but I was also weighing 300 pounds.
Wow.
I'd get to the top of a flight of stairs and thought I was going to die. So I was like, I can't do this. So,
And even though a lot of that is muscle, 300 pounds is still 300 pounds.
well,
So.
tell that to this guy. But but so I went to my doctor, my VA doctor, and I was like, listen, I got these things going on. What's the deal? So he said, okay, let's do some blood work. They did some, urine and blood. And then he called me and he said, okay, I'm going to set you up with an endocrinologist. Went to the endocrinologist. She's awesome. Except for when she had me, she was like, I'm going to need to test your testicles or check your testicles. And I'm like, excuse me?
Hell
And
yeah.
so pulls the curtains.
Did
It
you
was
actually
crazy.
say hell yeah?
So crazy. She pulls the curtains. And then she's like, all right, I'm going to stand on the other side of the curtain. And there's literally like what is it? The Mormons or somebody, they say have sex with a hole.
I'm just thinking of the glory
Yeah,
hole.
somebody. So she's like, you're going to put it through the hole and I'm going to check it. Okay, no problem. And then I heard I'm committed. And she says, hey, do you mind if I bring in a student? Are we talking a medical student or your 8th grade daughter? Who are we talking about? So I was like, sure, go ahead.
The more the merrier.
So she's explaining to her what she's going to
Feel
do,
my testicles.
this and that. And so all of a sudden I feel the grab and cough and all that other stuff. And so all of that in conjunction with her interview and my blood work, she's like, you have the lowest testosterone that I've ever seen in my almost 30 years.
Were you using recreational steroids? I mean, that would
I
explain.
wasn't using anything.
What was your test level? You remember?
Oh God, I don't remember. I can show you though. It's on my phone, I think somewhere, but it was low. And so she said, okay, we're going to start you on, it's a pump. It's androgel. I don't know if that's the common one, but it's androgel.
You said pump. My mind's going in the woods. Really? The VA's issuing pumps now. That's awesome. I guess I need to go check my testosterone.
Well, the crazy thing about it is she gave me the gel and she said, I need you to look me in the eye and promise me that you are only going to put it on your upper shoulder and your upper arm and your shoulder. And I'm like, okay, fine. She goes, no, I need you to promise me because you are not supposed to put it on your testicles or your stomach.
Ow.
Never told me why. I have no idea why. Maybe somebody in the comments can tell me why, but she made me promise. So yeah, so I do one pump on each shoulder every day. And
Why the shoulders?
I
Why-
don't know. I have no idea, bro. She just told me that's what I have to do. So every 3 months, my blood's retested. I just got my test back 2 or 3 days ago. My level is completely normal. There was a time when my levels were super high in the beginning, and then they dropped because this was during COVID, during the lockdowns and all that. So they couldn't get me what I needed. So I was off of it for about a month. And after about 2 weeks, you start feeling the effects of being off of it. You start getting real tired, all kinds of stuff. So they finally got it to me, went back on it, shot up for a little bit, and then went level. And I've been since 2020, I've been fine.
Is
The
that your
problem
same?
is- What's that?
No, I'll keep going. I'm sorry.
The problem with that is, and I don't know if this is everybody, but I asked her, "Am I going to be on this for the rest of my life?" And she's like, "Yes,
Yeah.
yeah." She's like, "You're,
Or else you won't produce any testosterone.
yeah." So, yeah. So,
Tell your girlfriend, sorry, man. Maybe you need to go find somebody else. He's not going to be producing anything. I mean, what good are you?
listen,
You're just a shell, dude. You're a husk.
until I can stop putting it down.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Stop.
man answer right there. Right.
But yeah, I would say it's the best thing that I've ever done. And I actually, again, not talking about where I work, I just advised someone who I work with. He was describing all these things to me, and I'm like, "Have you been to the doctor for your, blood work?" And he's like, "No." And I was like, "You need to go." Well, sure enough, I just saw him last night. He's on test now because
Cool.
his is crazy low.
Jack, are you the same thing? You get the same kind of.
Yeah, guys, I apologize for having so many scotches and that I'm like somewhat incoherent.
You're
right
good.
now.
You're good.
That's why I said
But I experienced like something somewhat similar. All of a sudden, and it's very funny. I hit 40, and when I was about like 41 and a half, all of a sudden, dropped energy levels, like difficulty waking up in the morning, difficulty carrying the same workload that I had previously, like all these sorts of like very basic issues, and also working out. Like I exercised a lot, but it was like I was regressing. Like I wasn't able to lift as much weight. Like just doing push-ups hurt, like physically hurt. And it's like, what the hell is going on with me?
Yeah.
And so I got tested for testosterone, and I was a little low. I was like 271, and you're supposed to be like somewhere between 300 and 900, I think. So they prescribed to me a pill called Clomid, and that inspires your body to naturally create more testosterone. And over the course of a year, it went up to like 645. And I've had like major differences from energy levels and how I exercise. And it basically solved everything for me.
But I do remember you saying to me, I mean, since we're on this topic, I remember over like Christmas when I was here, you said like you couldn't fall asleep. It was too much energy.
Oh, that was something different.
Okay.
That was something.
that was the weed.
That was-
No. That was I was
PCP that was laced into the weed.
I was prescribed some thyroid medications,
Okay.
and that was not this last year. It was 2 years before.
Wow. Time flies. Time flies.
And so my thyroid is like just slightly low, and they prescribed something to me, and I didn't sleep for like 5 days straight. So
Yeah, it's like a Coke bit.
yeah. Lost that. But I would really emphasize to like other people out there that like whatever preconceptions you have about testosterone, like it's not about like getting a boner,
No.
and it's like I never had like a problem getting it up. Like that was not the issue there. It was more about energy levels, and that plays into all these other things about like how much work you're able to do during the day and how you're able to exercise and all that other stuff. And I would just say also that, as you get older, your testosterone rate decreases.
Yeah, it just decreases.
And it's not something.
Surprisingly, though, you know what's crazy? Because I've checked mine with year after year, and mine actually got slightly higher. But
Really?
but I think what part of that was, and I could say this, man, is I remember like at the very end of when I was working for Soft Rep, or actually the very end when I was working for Sirius, I did go through a period of like huge depression. And I remember I spoke to you about this.
Yeah.
And just those psychological issues can drop your testosterone. Now, I never had low testosterone. It was always in normal range, but it's gone up since then. And I think it's just because I'm in a good mind state. I'm happy with where I'm at.
Do you know where you're at now?
I don't remember, but it's totally normal range. I know that.
So did you guys, is the VA, did the VA, is that a
VA.
cover that?
No,
Did you guys get-
not for me. I pay it out of pocket.
Why
Yeah,
not for you
mine
though? I
was-
mean, you're a combat veteran. You're
I just got a disability rating this week, so
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's all, what, can I ask you, what'd they give you then?
I honestly don't know. The check hit my account, but I have not like seen a letter that tells me.
You ever got well, that's, I mean, no, that's great. I think that's awesome. man.
Yeah, no, just being real. I don't know.
Yeah. So I just looked up my my results. So this is September of 2019. The low end of the range is 264. I was at 173.
yeah.
Damn.
So then if you go back to just recently, just Tuesday, I'm at 531 and it's literally right
Right in the middle. Yeah.
And
So-
I would also note to folks out there that low testosterone has been positively linked to being a veteran.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is what you spoke about. Yeah. With
Being a combat veteran, the increased stress, food, poor diet, and also sleep deprivation. All of that plays into it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah. It makes
got to
sense,
get
man.
checked out.
Yeah.
I'll get checked out one. Maybe I don't know. I just had my last physical. Did they check it with normal blood and
I think
You have to ask for
Yeah.
it.
you have to ask
specifically.
for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've asked just out of curiosity. I just like to see, and I've always been
I'm
perfectly fine.
I'm just curious too. I want to.
I think every male should.
Yeah,
when
it
you're
makes
getting in
sense to.
your 40s,
Yes.
or even
Yes.
if you're not in your 40s yet, if you feeling the symptoms, your sex drive, but more you're tired, you're just feeling blah, like you just can't do anything. You're finding yourself, not wanting to. There's no motivation to do anything. There's nothing wrong with asking your doctor,
Yeah.
hey, can you please just check my testosterone levels and go from there? Because it's the people, you had mentioned it before, you've got these young kids doing tests, and then you have the older folks who are on these massive doses because
Massive
they waited
doses.
too long. So don't wait. There's nothing, a good doctor will accommodate you if you ask.
This is a good public service announcement. It feels like.
Well, it's it's for me. But I'm serious. I'm in a great spot. I just haven't really felt like I needed it.
Yeah, you
nothing
look
wrong
like
with
you're
that.
still.
Yeah,
in
and if
great
you don't
shape,
if you
man,
don't feel that you need it, then you shouldn't.
but it's always worth testing. I think.
Yeah, just at
Don't-
least
and
get the results.
reason I tested
Yeah.
the first time was just I was going through a depression. I think that was more what it was, and I got out of that, and I was fine since. The last thing I want to get into, unless there's anything else, was just you've been hosting Eyes On with Andy Milburn, which Dee also produces. Well, Dee is also a host on that.
Yeah.
It's really the three guys. Dee is kind of like my role of the non-military guy.
And Mick Mulroy too,
Mick Mulroy as well.
who's a legend.
Yeah, so Dee is kind of the guy where if you're using too many acronyms, like what the hell are you guys talking about? But yeah, man, just to talk about what you guys are doing, because now it's on a new channel. It was originally on the Team House channel. Now you guys have to go to Eyes On Podcast on YouTube and everywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Apple Podcasts. So yeah, get into what you've been doing.
So the premise of it, which I didn't even want to do, Jack knows. They had to push me into this because I get imposter syndrome a lot. So I was like, what do I have to talk about? But the premise of it is, whereas Team House and Battle Line, you guys have the run and gun guys and gals on there. We focus a little more on geopolitical issues, stuff that's in the news. We don't necessarily talk about, the death of Michelle Trachtenberg, stuff like that. That's not the kind of stuff we talk about, but everything that's going on with Ukraine, China, things like that. And
Which we do that too.
yeah, of course,
We're
yeah.
kind of all over the
That as
place.
well.
I think
truthfully.
Michelle Trachtenberg is and Eurotrip's way more interesting. Dude.
Oh, I agree. It makes more sense actually. But and most of the time it's just the four of us talking. You know, sometimes it's three of us, whatever. Every now and then we'll have a guest on who is an SME in that subject matter expert in that field. We try to keep it as apolitical as possible. So what you saw, the Jason
Today.
you saw today,
That was you unleashed.
yeah, it is not the Jason you will see on the Eyes On podcast. You'll see my face sometimes be like, you know, but we try to keep it apolitical because we just want to get the facts out there as much as possible. We've had some really, really good episodes from Alex Hollings, who's a
Great
friend,
guy.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
all these shows. When it comes to aviation stuff, all the way up to, we had a former, I'm going to say this wrong, Niset. Is that the Israeli parliament?
I don't know.
Niset, whatever.
Sounds good. It's right. You're, as far as everybody knows,
Knesset,
yeah. That's
she was on, and it turned into a really good debate about Gaza between her and Andy Milburn on it, and generated a lot of good comments. We get our crazy ones every now and then.
yeah, everybody.
Everybody does, and I don't even
That
read
mean-
the comments, but D does that for me. But it's a really great. I really am happy that I did it. I learn most of the time. I learn a lot more than I give, than I talk, and I really enjoy it. So I think everybody.
And it's something different for you too, in that you went all those years writing as James Powell for SoftRep.com.
Yeah.
Although there were times people saw you on camera, it wasn't like a huge, James Bond thing where people didn't know the real guy. But like now you're out there as you're giving your real takes on things, and I mean that makes things a little different.
Yeah, it does.
I accidentally boarded your name out there on a few occasions.
You did a bunch of times.
Thanks.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Thanks. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate it.
I always said James Powell. Always. I until you said it was okay not to say James Powell.
Yeah. And what's cool is Team House being a springboard for us, we went to go have a shed built in our yard, and we go in, and I wasn't even wearing, I don't think I was wearing a Team House shirt. She was wearing a Team House shirt, and the guy's looking at it, and he's kind of looking and stuff. And at first I was like, what are you looking at? But then he was like, can I ask you a question? I was like, sure. He's like, are you on a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, Team House or Eyes On? And I was like, Eyes On. He's like, I knew that's where I knew you from. So it's cool. And even in the
That is
gym,
always cool.
when I'm wearing like a Team House t-shirt, people will come up. As a matter of fact, one of the girls at the desk was like, I love that show. Where can I get one of those t-shirts? And I tricked Dean to give me a t-shirt, and I gave it to her. So
We had some.
so it's people are, they know who it is, and it really means a lot, the feedback that we get. Hey, like one of the things that we were just told, I was told a couple weeks ago, was it would be really cool if you could have two opposing sides, like we did with the former politician, two opposing sides on the same subject. So you guys can, everybody can get both sides of the story. And I think that, that's something that Dee has taken on board.
And by the way, I think there needs to be more of that, because here's the thing. Everything on TV now is a split screen debate, but it's more so just like a shouting match.
Yes.
And it's not a respectful discussion on things.
Exactly.
Which, earlier in the show, I think we had opposing viewpoints on things, and people are going to agree with what I said or disagree, but there's a respect there. And it's not, it's funny because we mentioned Dan Bongino before. And like, I remember it was just like every day on TV for a while, it was Dan Bongino and Geraldo Rivera talking about immigration.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where you can find the clip online. Actually, Harold probably can, where Geraldo throws something and he goes, "You're a punk, Bongino."
Yeah.
Like,
see,
it's not like a real conversation on
that's
anything.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And
especially with Geraldo being 120 pounds, 90 years old.
Exactly.
Throw a Dan Bongino that probably is doing a little bit too much of the free test, just a tad, more than just probably wouldn't have been a fair fight. I'm sorry, I just wanted. I'm the comic relief to all the seriousness here. At least I think I am.
And like, I could have a conversation with him. I'm not a fan of his, but I could have a conversation
For
with him
sure.
because we're two grown men. It's when someone steps back from being a grown man or grown woman and starts insulting or things like that. That's when first of all, the conversation's off track now. Whatever topic you were talking about, it's gone because I'm not going to hear what you're saying about Ukraine, which might be a good point because now you just called me a little bitch or something like that. You know, so I enjoy.
No
like,
one's calling you a little bitch.
No. Oh, I'm sure there are actually.
Not,
I'm sure
not in
comments,
person. Not in
pretty
person.
soon there's going to be people calling me a little bitch, which is fine. That's okay. I have no problem with that. But it's when that becomes people's persona, which we try to avoid on Eyes On, and I've never seen it on the Team House or on you guys' show.
No, never.
That's when it becomes a clown show, and it's no longer a talk or debate. It's just show. So.
It's Jerry Springer is what's turning.
Exactly.
I mean, and you're gonna get ratings.
Yeah. And I'm gonna throw a chair like Jerry Springer. I'm kidding. I have told somebody though, before I jumped off of Twitter before it became X. I did tell somebody, if you think that I won't put my little pennies together, buy a plane ticket and fly to wherever you think you're hiding, we are sadly mistaken. And I mean that. Like if not just words, like he threatened me. He threatened my family. So that's a different story. But other than that, let's just talk, So
and you made a good point. I the Wreck-It Ralph theory of you don't read the comments, man. I never do.
I don't.
If I see Ian said, "Hey man, did you see this?" and Ian knows he doesn't. I don't want to see the shitty. It's just gonna fire me up. I don't need to see it. There's 8 million trolls out there. Yep. Unless it's really, really important. Negatively, Ian will tell me if it's positive. Of course, I want to see it. And you want to be happy.
I think you're in the same boat as me, Jack. Like I don't really care.
I don't care.
If anything, it is amusing. Like when I get a message or Instagram, like I did, that said that we were repeating like neo-Nazi talking points. Like I kind of just laugh and and I went back and forth with the guy maybe once or twice, and then he wanted to keep going. And I was like, dude, I'm done with this. Yeah. And I said to him, and this is generally how I feel. Like if something I said on the podcast offends you so much, or Chris did, there's a million other podcasts you can listen to. True. This is not your thing.
Exactly.
Go find another podcast that you enjoy and leave it at that.
And plus I have the buffer of D. He is the master at reading the comments and then blasting this person. And then he'll send us a screenshot. Hey, I took care of this. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. And he's
Did he make it? Is he Uncle Drew or is he freaking?
He's away.
The little white boy.
So what else we got? Anything?
No, I just wanted to ask you about your podcast too. But I mean, really, other than that, we actually went to a lot more stuff than we were going to. So I
we had nothing. We had zero planned.
This is a success. It's very much a success. And I always love talking to you. And you just be matter of fact. Who gives a shit? And this is what it is. And you don't have to agree with everybody.
Absolutely.
It's fine. And that to me is still important. And it's just a lost skill set in today's world. It is.
Agreed.
So yeah, I like it. I enjoy it.
Same.
Man, and Ian will clickbait the shit out of everything you said. So we're good.
That's all right.
Probably can, yeah.
He's a pro at that. I don't know how he does.
It's also Harold. Harold's great with the thumbnails, so I gotta give props to that. Awesome. But I mean, you got to make it interesting somehow,
But and Jack always knows this, but whenever you're out in Kent, you're always welcome.
Appreciate it.
You come out into nowhere, Kansas, but got guest houses out here. We can go to range and shoot.
Yes, sir.
You guys are always welcome. And when tell Dave the same, he's always welcome too, man.
Well,
yeah, definitely.
Good seeing you, man. You're family.
You too, brother.
It was good.
No, you're good, and you're still freaking huge, you monster. Damn,
I'm trying.
Testosterone.
I saw that Jersey Mike's. Shout out. Shout out.
Dude, that ain't nothing wrong with getting a little gut going on. You're done, man. You're still fucking right here. That's all right.
All right. So yeah, with that, Eyes On podcast available on all podcast platforms. And I could actually give out your real Instagram now, right? So
yes, you can.
at JLYO7_3 on Instagram. I'll have that in the description itself. And yeah, that's about it. Every now and again we say like, we don't really get into politics on this podcast.
Damn,
today we very much
getting into it today.
But and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, leave whatever comments below, subscribe, and our new episodes every Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Cool.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. but we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.